ready for bed at a regular time is one of the most important habits you can learn.
Who you gonna call?
Ghostbusters! Jason was my son, and today is his birthday.
Ooh, Lori, scared another one away.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Sorry, Jack. Chucky's back.
We are counselors at Hackett's Quarry Summer Camp. There is a swarm of bears.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
No! Glenn! Somebody help me, please!
Most people are so ungrateful to be alive, but not you.
It's showtime.
Hello, and welcome back to another fabulous and wonderful episode of the Scream Stream. Now, it's finally here. We're finally on episode 29. I know I've been promising this for roughly about 6 weeks now, but we finally got all the information down. And I know I keep saying finally, but seriously, y'all don't know how long I've been doing research on this entire franchise, but we are here. We are doing Fatal Frame. Oh, excuse me, moi. I'd say Fatal Frame, for me, it's a kind of a complicated history, mainly because I watched it more from the sidelines than anything else, but I was always fascinated by it. But I got into Fatal Frame, I want to say, I was a child. I probably shouldn't have been playing the game, to be perfectly honest, but I was hanging out with my brother, and he was over at his friend's house. You know, my mom was just like, yeah, spend time with your sister. So I got drug along, and while we were there, his buddy was playing Fatal Frame. I want to say it was the first one. I'm pretty sure. I'm about 99% sure it's the first one because I think I found the ghost while watching some gameplay footage of Fatal Frame. I'm pretty sure it was the first one. It was when this ghost comes out like the corner of a hallway and it starts attacking people. Let me explain. See, what happened was, while he was playing it, they ended up pausing the game. He looks at me, puts the controller in my hand, says, just watch my game for me, I'll be right back. Him and my brother walk off. They go do teenage things. So me being a curious child, eventually, get tired of waiting after a few minutes, so I just start playing the game. I played a couple of games before. I kind of know what I'm doing. And I'm trying to get used to these damn tank controls because I want to say it was like a year or two prior. That's when I did Resident Evil, and I only played a little bit of that at the time because, again, I was supposed to play it. But, I was trying to get used to these tank controls. It's been a good minute. I walk down this hallway, and this ghost comes out of nowhere. Scares the hell out of me. Freaks me out. I end up pausing the game. And I'm just like, what did I just do? Why did I just do this? What is going on here? And then while I'm waiting, the idle animation kicks in. And for those of y'all who don't know Fatal Frame's idle animation, basically after I want to say 5 minutes or so, weird things start happening on the screen. Back in Fatal Frame 1, it was like bloody handprints start appearing. I think from 2 onwards to the last one, it's been just random ghosts just appearing on the screen. It's really creepy. It freaked me out. I walked away. Didn't touch the game ever again. But that little bit of time I played Fatal Frame back when I was a child, it really stuck with me. And, for years, I grew up listening about this game, about people talking about this game. I never got my hands on a copy of it, especially once I got my own system. I just never thought about it, to be honest. It was kind of one of those games that, as I was growing up, it kind of fell in the back of my mind. And then a couple of years ago, I think me and my roommate were, we were talking about some horror game and everything, and we ended up pulling up a list, and they talked about Fatal Frame on the list, and we're just like, hey, yeah, let's check that out. So we watched, I want to say Crimson Butterflies walkthrough, and I instantly fell back in love with this game, and again, I tried to get my hands on a copy of this damn game, couldn't find it, or let me phrase that, I could find it. just if I wanted to spend an arm and a leg on this damn thing, so I never could get my hands on it. Kind of disappointed me, no big deal. But I was hoping, there's enough fan love for this game, enough people like this game. Hopefully, maybe, eventually, in the realm of eventually, they would remake it, do something for us. Well, 2021, that's when we got our first remake. Unfortunately, it was the 5th game. So the 5th game was technically the first Fatal Frame game I sat down and got to play. Like from beginning to end, no ifs, ands, or buts, no 20 minutes, getting scared, throwing it off. It was literally the first one I sat down and played. And I enjoyed it. Granted, I have my beefs with the game, and we'll get there when we get there. Because basically the way I'm going to do it is we're going to have this little introduction. I'm going to continue telling you all how I enjoyed this game, how I've watched on the sidelines, do the fun facts. Then we'll dive into each individual game, and we'll talk about the controls, the atmosphere, everything per usual for gaming reviews. And then I'll go more information that I found and shit, and so on and so forth. And y'all know the drill. But, yeah, I absolutely love this game. Love this game franchise. Even though the 5th game, like I said, I had my beats with it, wasn't one of my favorites. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I got a little bored about halfway through the game. Mainly it was because it was all that up and down the fucking mountain bullshit. Like, I didn't mind, going up the mountain or having to come down it, once or twice, especially if it was like a mission-based thing. But the fact that I literally start at the base of this mountain, alright, we need you to head to the mountain, take a picture, and do this and find these clues. Okay, so I go all the way up the mountain. I do all this fighting. I do all this traveling around the back end of this mountain. I'm up and down these ruins and shit. Alright, got what I needed. Alright, now take your ass down this mountain. So I go down this fucking mountain, have to find all these ghosts and shit. Have to take a trolley all the way down, and then I fade to black to go home. And I'm like, well, how long did that take me? Most chapters took me about, I think, an hour at the bare minimum, except for like 2 chapters that were like lickety split for some strange reason. They were like the only 2 or 3 that were like 5-6 minutes long. Everything else was like an hour and a half. I think one of them took me like an hour and 45 minutes to do at one point. Because it was just ridiculous. A lot of backtracking. Went up and down the mountain. So, after I experienced that, I went through the reviews, and I was like, okay, what do actual Fatal Frame fans think of this game? People who have sat down and played all these games, not just watched on the sideline like I have, because, like I said, I've only watched gameplay footage. After Crimson Butterfly and me and my roommate, I started watching all the others. So I was like, what is everybody else thinking? Everybody else kind of gave it a mixed bag. They felt the same way. It was a lot of bloated, a lot of agonizing bullshit in between, point A to point B. So I was like, okay, so maybe the 5th game is not the best game for a retrospect of the full game franchise. Well, what do you know? Earlier this year, we got Fatal Frame 4, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse. And I just got done playing it last week. And I have to say, if every other Fatal Frame game is like Lunar Eclipse, I would definitely 100% enjoy the hell out of it. I had a blast playing this game. Nothing felt like it was hard. Like there were some bosses that were hard. There were some bosses that made me want. There was 2 bosses in general that made me want to pull my fucking hair out. And it wasn't like to the point that it made me frustrated to the point that I wanted to quit. But it was just I had to maneuver around certain ghosts and everything that. It was something I wasn't quite used to, especially with the camera mechanic and everything. Because, in survival horror, I'm used to having a gun. or a piece of wood. A plank. But, yeah, not a camera, though. So, it was interesting to get used to it, especially used to the controls and everything. Because what made Fatal Frame 4 interesting was that not only was it strictly from Japan only originally, it was also Nintendo Wii. That was fun. But yeah, so after I enjoyed the 4th game. I enjoyed it to the point. And that is why it's taken me so long to do this, because as I was playing the game, I kept falling more and more in love with this game. And then I went to some gameplay footage. I started looking up some more information about this game because I originally was going to do this podcast just on the 4th game. And then as I was researching and delving into all this lore and shit, just more and more shit coming into my face, I was just like, holy shit, this game franchise is like a juggernaut. It is an amazing series. Like, they have a very simple formula, and they stick to it, and it is amazing. And I hope they remake at least the second or first one. Hell, even the third one. I want a remake of all 3 of them, to be perfectly honest. It would be really nice since we haven't had, I want to say, collector's edition since the PlayStation 3. I think the PS3 was the last console for PlayStation to have any of the Fatal Frames. But yeah, no. If they remake it, I'm totally be down to play that and have fun, because I had a blast playing it, playing at least the 4th game. Don't get me wrong, the 5th game was fun. I just had my own personal beats with it. But yeah, surprisingly enough, there are 5 main games in the entire franchise, but there's also a spin-off game called Spirit Camera. There is also a remake of Fatal Frame 2 for the Wii. And there was also, of course, the 2 remakes we just got within the last 3 years now at this point. So there's like 9 like games total, which I find that incredible. But as I was digging more into this, not only do they have all these games, they also have manga series and a fucking live action movie. So I was just like, I gotta talk about a lot of this, because I didn't think Fatal Frame got so popular to the point that it has a manga series and a live action movie. And rumor is Steven Spielberg is working with somebody right now to create a live action movie here for America. I don't know how true that is, or if that's actually in fruition anymore, but that's what I heard. So if that's the case, I would definitely be interesting, and that would be interesting to see. But we will be talking about bits of the manga, bits of the movie. Because I did watch the movie, I did sit down and watch the movie, and I have skimmed through the manga. I haven't read because there's a lot of fucking chapters. I think there's like 52 books, and each of them are about 20 chapters each, just about. So it'll be a lot of reading, but I did skim over it. I heard a couple of people talk about it and everything, so I think I got a gist of the manga, so we will be glossing over them. But yeah, some more little fun facts about Fatal Frame. This makes me chuckle. So when Fatal Frame 1 first came out, back in 2001, it was so scary. It was so scary, people couldn't finish the game. So when they were making the second game, the creator was just like, okay, so we're going to tone down the horror. Plot twist, everybody. It actually, when it came out, became the scariest game of all time. Was like in a bunch of gaming magazine reviews, ranking as number 1 or number 2 at the time. Like, it's some crazy shit. But the fact that this man's like, I'm going to tone down the scariness, and it's still classified as the scariest game of all time. Where did you trim down the scariness, and how scary is the first game? Because I've seen gameplay. And funny enough, looking at the gameplay, it does not look like it's a long-ass game. It looks like roughly 5 hours, maybe 5 hours total. But there's a lot of ghosts and limited resources, so I can see why it would take someone a couple of days to do it. But some other little fun facts I learned about Fatal Frame is that I'm going to attempt to say his name. If I say his name wrong, I do apologize. But it's Shibuta. It's the guy who helped create the game franchise. He's like the brains behind the entire plot relevance to the entire game. I've noticed this. He makes like the ideas and themings and storylines and writing, while his buddy, and again, if I say it wrong, I do apologize, Kikuchi, he's more like the technical genius, where he chooses the systems and the graphical designs and everything else. But yeah, they are an amazing power couple together, I'm not gonna lie. And them working with Tecmo, makes it even better because Tecmo is a company that made Dead or Alive and actually has collaborated with not only Final Fantasy but the Fire Emblem series. So yeah, I mean they got good credits underneath their belt. I don't think Grasshopper, who really helped them out mainly in the 4th and 5th game. I want to say it was definitely the 4th game because they were like all over the 4th game. I'm not sure if they worked on the 5th game though. But Grasshopper also helped, and Nintendo, since Made in Blackwater and Lunar Eclipse were on the Wii and the Wii U system, of course Nintendo had their hand in there. Which, by the way, guys, I don't know what Nintendo's beef was, but for some reason, Nintendo just refused to release Fatal Frame 4 and 5 when they got done with it to America for the longest time. Like, shit you not, I don't know why. It was all Nintendo. Like, people were asking for it. And hell, it got to the point that when Fatal Frame 4 came out, there was a magazine article in Europe that was actually advertising it. So people were super excited, and then suddenly Nintendo was like, we're not really going to do it. We're not. In America, y'all ain't getting it either. Australia, y'all ain't getting it. Yeah, it's just for these people. Yeah. I don't get it. I don't get it, but that was their choice. We got it now, though, so I'm super happy. But, I digress for a second, but Shibuda, he, like I said, he's like the brains of the operation when it comes to the writing and the theming and everything behind the stories. And he was actually inspired by, especially when it came like Fatal Frame 3, he was inspired by some dreams and nightmares he had. He was actually inspired by his own spiritual experiences. Like, he went to several haunted locations. Like, one of the locations, I forget which beach it was, but he was hanging out by a rocky cliff. And he read something on the end that was really... I didn't write it down. I should have. But it was something like... life is miserable, just basically telling you like to end it all, because life just sucks. And as he was reading it, he got levitated up a little bit, like someone was trying to pick him up and throw him off the cliff, and that freaked him out. But yeah, he was inspired by that, and not only was he inspired by that, but after seeing the success of Silent Hill, just like knocking it out of the park, that is when he went with his buddy, and they're like, we can make a scary game. We dealt with some scary stuff. So he took that inspiration of his dreams, of the haunting experiences. They actually watched old school Japanese horror movies, the good and the bad ones. Was inspired that way, and they were also inspired by real haunted locations and real folklore that was around the area. So I thought that was quite interesting that he took actual stuff, but they always say that reality is scarier than fiction. So the fact that he took inspiration behind several of these iconic locations, especially in the 5th game. Like, the 5th game, straight out, you know exactly the inspiration where he took it from, like, straight up. Like, as soon as, like, I didn't even know anything about Fatal Frame, and as I was playing that game, I was just like, I definitely could tell where this is supposed to be at. But, yeah, no, like, I just find that really cool. I just find that really, really cool, and they don't make horror games like this anymore. We don't get a lot of, like, true story. Like, hell, even when the first game came out, I think in America in 2002, they had it titled based on a true story. They kind of, like, lure us into, hey, you definitely gonna like this game. Y'all like scary stuff based on real stuff. Another interesting thing that I found out when they were making the game is that each game is in some ways not connected. Like, basically 1 and 2 aren't connected, but 3 connects 1 and 2 together because he wanted to make a perfect trilogy. And so you could play each of the game as a standalone game, and I think that's a really neat idea to have it kind of loosely tied in together. And maybe if it was done a little bit better in some aspects, because when I was watching the gameplay of 3, I did notice a little bit of some like confusing, head scratching moments, like just like, what are the odds? What are the odds? All these people from the first game and the second game knew these people, and yet now we're all in the same apartment dealing with shit, and nobody's talking to each other. You would think they would just be like, listen, listen, I dealt with some shit, you dealt with some shit, we can all talk about this. But the way they built the lore, so say you didn't play the first two games, you just picked up Fatal Frame 3, you would still understand the story and probably appreciate it much more, especially if you got your hands on a copy of the first and second one, especially the first game, because the main character from the first game is in this third game. But I did like the standalone factor. You know, it ties in extremely well. It's like an anthology series. Like hell, I even kept that in mind when I was reading the manga and also watching the movie. Just like, okay, let's see how closely related are they to the gaming franchise. And I have to say, the manga did a better job at it than the movie. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. The movie had its elements. It had its moments. But I wanted more from it, and I'll explain there when I get to the movie part. But yeah, another little fun fact I also learned, and this one, it kind of tickled me because I understand it's coming from Japanese culture, but while they were doing research for the game, you know, because you notice like a lot of these games have to do with, you know, cults, you know, doing dark rituals, doing crazy things that keep the gates of hell basically pleased, so they don't open up and damage the whole world. So while they were doing research, so many people were superstitious that they were actually wearing charms and protective necklaces. And I forget who it was, but came up to one of the creators of the game was just like, hey, can we do like a protection charm circle thing? And he like shot the idea down like, come on, man. Come on. It's just a game. Don't need to be that superstitious. But yeah, no, I just thought that was actually funny that they were superstitious to the point that they were so worried while making this game that they thought bad things would happen. But granted, I can get it. Well, let's go back to some of the bullshit in some of the crazier horror movies here in America, such as Poltergeist or The Omen, the original Omen, where that movie's just straight up cursed. That movie's straight up cursed, and Poltergeist is cursed. See, because you don't fuck with that shit. You really don't, but people were fucking with that shit. I'm looking at you, Poltergeist. You and those damn skeletons. But one other little fun fact, just on a little side note when it comes to the Spirit Camera spinoff real quick. This game, I didn't go too far into the storyline because it's a very short game. But what really stood out to me on this is that not only is it a 3DS game, it's actually in our reality. Apparently, because you use the 3DS, I guess you actually use the 3DS. I didn't really watch any kind of footage of this game. It was kind of hard to find some footage of this one. I didn't really dive too far into YouTube when it came to this one because I wasn't too overly curious. But I did find this little fun fact that it's kind of set in our reality, and you actually use the DS to go around and take pictures and shit like you would do with the Wii U system. But yeah, overall, fantastic ideas from these two creators. They have really, really thought everything through when it came to creating this game. A lot. Like one of the biggest aspects that made Fatal Frame quite different from, say, Silent Hill or Resident Evil is the fact that you don't technically have a weapon. Yeah, you got the camera. You got the camera obscura. You can do damage and kill the ghost with the camera. But just like any good horror survival game, you're very limited on the amount of film you have. But think about it. Like, just put your mind there for a sec. Sit down. Pretend you have your controller in your hand. You got your headphones on. You're in a dark room. You turn on the game. You're all into it. And you see a ghost. What would you do? What would you do? Logically, you would want to run the hell out, but you know you're playing a survival horror game, so you would fight it. Well, how do you fight a ghost? Well, how did you fight a zombie in Resident Evil? How did you fight any of the creatures in Silent Hill? You used a weapon. Well, all you got is a camera, so what are you supposed to do? Just throw the camera at it? Just back off. Like, seriously. So the idea of using a camera instead of an actual physical weapon, something you can... Because my philosophy is, when it comes to fighting ghosts, you don't fight ghosts. You don't. Here's why. Because you could punch a ghost, right? You could go up there, fucking punch that ghost. Nothing gonna happen. your hands just gonna go straight through because it doesn't exist. It's not really there. He's just whatever a ghost is made out of. And he's gonna laugh at you, and you know what's gonna happen? A fucking chair's gonna come out of nowhere and smack you upside the head. And then you lose. If I can't fight you, I don't try to fight you. So I will walk away from the situation. So I will try, if say my house is haunted. I'll try an exorcism real quick. If that didn't help, I'll try to fight it. And if I couldn't fight it and it threw a chair at me, I'm getting the hell out. He won, it's his house. I'm just saying. But yeah, so when using the camera and everything, it's kind of not off-putting, but something unique to get used to. So it was a fun, unique, new kind of weapon to use. That's something abnormal that you wouldn't think about using when fighting a ghost. Especially in a horror survival game, especially a horror survival game in 2001. Again, we had Resident Evil and Silent Hill at this point, and they're all big tough guys with massive weapons and shit. Like think back to Leon. Wait, did Resident Evil 2 come out at that point? I can't remember if Resident Evil 2 was out at that point. I know Resident Evil was already out at that point. But hell, let's even take that. Let's take Chris. You got Chris. He's got limited inventory, fucking limited guns. But he's got some badass guns, and he doesn't take shit from no one. You go to Fatal Frame and you're walking around this frail, fragile little woman, and all you got is a camera and the hopes of finding your brother. So yeah, it's a very, very intense moment when finding these ghosts, because all you have is this camera. And that's something else I wanted to talk about that makes the game quite interesting, is the atmosphere. Oh my god, like when I was rewatching the footage for 1, and we got to that first ghost encounter, I had chills down my spine just watching it. So I could only imagine if I was sitting there playing this game, how terrified I would be. Because the fact that there's no music behind this moment. There's no music. There's just this weird ominous sound, and you just hear someone walking up these steps, but you see no one. And of course, we cut to the stairs, cut back to the main character, cut to the stairs, back to the main character, and she's slowly bringing up her camera because she's got the sixth sense. She knows some bullshit's about to happen, but she grabs that camera, pulls it up, and as soon as she hits that flash, that ghost appears right in front of her. That is what I'm talking about when it comes to a horror game. The intense fieldness of dread and bullshit on its way. You feel it in the air, and that's something I love about horror movies. I love horror movies that had that atmosphere, and this franchise just oozes with it, and I love it. Something else that made this game pretty unique for its time, not really necessarily its time, but pretty unique because of the time it came out, it's the third person perspective. The third person fixed camera perspectives that we all love from Resident Evil 1 and 2, where the camera was placed in a certain area. Fatal Frame just oozed with that. They had some beautiful shots, and I will say some of the shots, especially in the original games, I did notice some people were struggling at some areas because they were round a corner and then the camera would change, and because you got tank controls going on, your AI would freak out, so your character would just kind of spin in a circle for a minute. It may go in the right direction, may not go in the right direction. But that's what made this franchise and a lot of horror games at the time really unique, because of those camera perspectives we have. Nowadays, unfortunately, third-person fixed camera perspective has been thrown out in the wind. All we have is the third-person over-the-shoulder camera that a lot of people, are kind of used to at this point. I would honestly love to see, them bring back the third-person perspective in a horror game. That would be quite interesting. I would honestly love that. But, besides the camera perspective and the oozing of wonderful atmosphere we have going on, we have a lot of suspense, a lot of good jump scares. This game is just fun. From beginning to end, this game is just fun. Oh, God. What else do I got that, overall just explains the whole thing with these games? We also have, like I said, a very simple formula when it comes to this game franchises. And one of the biggest simple formulas I've noticed is that there's always a certain plot point they have to hit in each of these games. Most of the time it's an abandoned place such as a mansion, village, or on top of a mountain. It's always something, sacred, abandoned, people gone in there, people have been missing. You also have a ritual that went wrong. Somebody needs to be sacrificed. The sacrifice, failed for some reason, and now this is the reason. And now we have all these ghosts, and now we, as the main character, who are somehow tied to this whole thing, have to fix this. And that's usually the basic plot points they hit for every one of these games. Now, you would think that formula would get a little stale after a while, but no, actually. This formula is very, very simple, but doable, affordable, lovable. And I say this about my horror movies as well. You can have a basic generic horror movie, a basic hit point A, point B generic horror movie we all know. We all know the big twist that's coming. We all know that. We all know this jump scare. We get it. But I'm also that person that if it's done well, I like it. I am that weird person that, I might have seen it 1,004 times. But if it's done well, I will still enjoy it. Now, will I rant and rave about it, go, oh my god, it's the best thing in the world? Not necessarily. Now, if you do that and do something that blows my mind by the end of it, then I will be like, oh my god, that was amazing. But, if you hit the generic plot points and I'm satisfied with how the movie turned out, I'm going to be like, yeah, it's a good movie. It's basic, but it's good. And this franchise, it's kind of like that. It's basic, but it's good. It's basic in the point of the plot, the theming of the plot, but what makes it stand out the most is just the scares. It's the atmosphere. It's the noise, the music, the sound effects. They really take time and effort to make sure you're immersed into this scary-ass game and you feel the tension in this air. And also, another big staple of this franchise, and it's the last little bit, is the multiple endings. There's always multiple endings to each of these games. Some of them are easier to get than others. Others are complicated. I remember playing Fatal Frame 5, and to get one of the good endings when finding the final boss, you had to do it in a particular way, and this boss fight took fucking forever. I'm not even gonna lie. I spent, I think, 15 minutes, 15 long ass minutes just to get through one of her phases. Now, I don't know if I just sucked at the game, I was using the wrong film, or she was just that fucking hard. I don't know, but it took me too damn long to get through this final boss. And I had to we start above this water, and then we went under the water, and then I had to get her to go back over the water again, and then I could kill her. I couldn't kill her while we were underwater, because apparently if I did that, I got the bad ending, and you didn't want the bad ending. I was on a roll getting the good endings, which, again, there was 3 characters with 3 different endings on that one. So it's a lot of endings. And, that's been a staple of this game franchise since, day one. But overall, this whole franchise has made at least 1.3 million, 1.3 million copies have been sold. Funny enough, the first game, or some of the other games, they really sold very well. It's more that they have, over the years, have become cult classics. So people have slowly fallen more and more in love with them. And I think that's why the sudden popularity in the last 10 years for sure has definitely ramped up, especially with a lot of these remakes coming out. But let's go ahead and dive straight on in. We're going to start with Fatal Frame 1, work our way down, get to a brief synopsis of the movie, mangas, and everything. So guys, heads up, if y'all don't know me, I love my spoilers. I can't talk about anything without having spoilers, because that's just me. I gotta really let y'all know how I feel, and sometimes spoilers is the only way I know how to express my feelings, because sometimes those spoilers are the reason I either like or dislike a certain moment in a movie, game, TV show. You never know. So, Fatal Frame 1 came out in 2001. It sold over 22,000 copies on this first term alone when it came out. Not that great. It wasn't really highly praised at first. By the end of the year, I think it made 42,000 units were sold. So it was one of the lowest at the time, lowest in the franchise. I want to say it's second lowest now with, I think one of the other Fatal Frames. I think either 4 or 5. I think it was 5, being a little bit lower than the original one. But Fatal Frame 1. It's actually quite interesting. It was quite interesting. I learned some fun facts about this. Did y'all know? Because I didn't know this. I did not know this, but they did real-time rendering when it came to the map. You know how a lot of games, you go in there and you have open the door and it's already there because they've already preset the map. This game, for some reason, I don't know if it was just a technical choice, if it was just a design, if it was easier, I don't know why, but yeah, they did a real-time rendering of the map, so when you're going through, it shows up when you go through. Not beforehand or anything like that, which I do like that idea, I do like that concept. And again, I wonder if that's just because it's easier in the end to do that, or if it's just more of a technical stance again, and you need to ask the technical guy on this one because I can't answer that. But the fourth game, like I said, was one of the more shorter ones of the bunch. There's like 4 chapters plus a prologue. The graphics have held up actually very well for a 2001 game. Not like the bestie best. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I've seen some beautiful games in 2001, and this kind of ranks up there. But comparing it to, like, say, Fatal Frame, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse that just came out, not that great. But for 2001's graphics, hold up extremely well. I will say, though, the sound. The sound gave me 2 feels. The first sound was, oh, man, this sounds familiar. This sounds like I've heard these sound effects before, because you have. There are several sound effects that apparently at the time weren't that popular, but now, it's been about over 20 years. We've all heard these sound effects. The random screaming in the background of a woman. That weird shit. Yeah, we've heard it before. We've heard the footsteps of someone walking on the wood. We've heard that before. Funny enough, if I close my eyes and I listen, it almost sounds like Leon Kennedy walking in the police station when I hear the main character walking in Fatal Frame 1. So it gives me that feel, but it also gives me the feel of creepiness. They actually have some good ambient sound. The sound of the camera is amazing. Like, it's just the sound of the camera almost makes it feel like you're just tickling my ear just a little bit, because it's just such a satisfying sound. And I will say the camera sound for a lot of these games were beautiful, except in 2, and I want to say 3 had it. No, 3 had that good sound, but 2 had a weird sound. 4, it was almost like the camera was making love to me. That sound effect was just so beautiful. 5 was alright. But, they're not bad sounds, when it comes to the generic sound effects. It's just, we've heard them, they're overused, and I will say, unfortunately, when it comes to fighting the ghost in Fatal Frame 1, they repeat dialogue, so I can see how, like, maybe, say you keep fighting a certain boss, or a certain ghost, and you keep getting your ass kicked several times. Eventually, you're going to get tired of hearing that same fucking catchphrase over and over again. Trust me, I have lost my cool against bosses before, or against random ghosts or whatever before, because they say the same case in point. Dead by Daylight. Wesker talks in this game, right? But he only says like a handful of phrases. You don't know how aggravating it is when you go through like 7 Weskers in a row, and they all say the same bullshit to you when they down you. After a while, you just get fed up and you want to like snap back at Wesker and go, you know what, 7 minutes is all you can do because that's all you can afford to do. If you can only pleasure me for 7 minutes, you in the wrong house, motherfucker. It at least takes me 30 minutes. Go on somewhere. Like, fuck you, Wesker. Like, oh my god, that shit pisses me off after a while. But hell, like, even in a normal game, you know, I'll be fighting, especially like a boss in like Resident Evil, because you know those guys like to taunt and shit. And, it just pisses me off after a while. Just like, oh, you suck, bro. I know I've been at this boss fight for over an hour, but fuck you, man. Just fuck you. I don't want to hear it anymore. I eventually end up turning the sound off and just playing without the sound. I'm like huffing and puffing the entire time. Oh. But, yeah. Those kind of sound effects, or the kind of sound cues when you're in the boss fight, I don't mind them. I just hate when they get repeated over and over again while in the fight, and then especially if you gotta fight them multiple times. I can see where that can get you a headache. So, my love with the sound is like at a 50-50 split. But for the time when it came out in 2001, I'm sure it was beautiful. I'm sure it was great. Something else I found quite interesting is that the Xbox, for some fucked up reason, they got special treatment. I only say that because I'm a Sony person, so I play PlayStation. Don't get me wrong, I have an Xbox in my house. I have 2 Xboxes in my house. They're in my bedroom, but I play mainly on my PlayStation. But the Xbox version, still to this day I want to say on certain copies, still has 2 broken scenes in the game for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. The version I watched when I played was on the PlayStation, but the Xbox version, for some reason, there's just 2 scenes that you can hear the audio going on in the background, but you cannot see what the hell is going on, and I don't know why. I really don't know why. Oh, excuse moi. Well, let's go down the basic plot of this game real quick. It's about 2 siblings, Miku and Mafu, who they see supernatural stuff, and Mafu disappears while searching for a famous novelist in a haunted mansion. So apparently this novelist was going through this mansion trying to collect information on this dark ritual, which is called oh god, what do they call this dark ritual? The strangulation ritual. And this is literally their definition for the strangulation ritual. A chosen shrine maiden is torn apart. The ropes are then soaked in her blood to seal the hell gates. So, one thing I've noticed about these dark rituals is they have to do them every 10 years or so. Why is it it's always a shrine maiden? What have the shrine maidens ever done to anybody in the Japanese culture? Like, is that just like seriously, like, not making jokes or anything, but seriously, I'm not sure exactly the definition of a shrine maiden. I just know in Fatal Frame they're used quite often in ritual sacrifices. And I should have done some more research when it came to shrine maidens themselves, but I have to know. Why is it always a shrine maiden? What powers does a shrine... What does a shrine maiden technically do? Because I'm not sure. I've watched a lot of Japanese, horror movies and culture stuff. I just have never actually delved into it like this. So I actually might do that after the end of this podcast. Dive more into the shrine maidens, because I just want to know, why always shrine maidens? Why is it always these poor shrine maidens who get chosen to be fucking just tortured to the point of death, and then, well, you're used to keep the gates of hell at bay. And this is like in every game, except, okay, I can't say in the 4th game it's a little different. There's still gates of hell being used, but nobody's technically supposed to be sacrificed. It's supposed to be a dance instead. But the point is, shrine maidens are picked to do this horrible ritual to keep the evilness at bay. So you would think they would do anything possible to keep these women happy. And I get, when you're chosen to do a ritual and everything, you're not supposed to question it. You're supposed to be honored. And I understand that. And you see these as the story progressed, especially in this first one. You see that it was an honor to do this. But she made one fatal mistake. And apparently this is a mistake in almost every Fatal Frame game. She fell in love. She fell in love with a beautiful, handsome man. And because of this beautiful, handsome man, her feelings towards him, she wasn't sure or prepared to do this ritual. So when she went in there, she was confused. Very mixed emotions. And apparently you can't be mixed emotion. I've learned this in all the Fatal Frame games. You cannot be mixed emotion. If you're chosen to do this ritual, you got to go in and go, I am done with all my human life. Nothing matters. You don't matter. I don't matter. We're just doing this ritual. That's it. You know, you can't have any kind of human emotions behind anything. As soon as you feel an ounce of like happiness, ounce of love, ounce of anything else but absolute certainty of your death, everything just goes to hell and back. Everything just goes to hell. So everything goes to hell after they kill her lover because they're afraid of her confusion, thus causing the ritual to fail, and ending in everybody in this mansion, in the surrounding areas of this mansion, you know, just this forest, to die, and unfortunately be stuck in a state of limbo where they're forced to repeat that day over and over again. Very, very, very sad and agonizing for these poor ghosts. But you know what? I feel like if y'all are performing dark rituals, you kind of get yourself into these kind of situations. Like, I understand you want to protect the world. You want to keep the darkness out of, you know, out of the real world. Keep it in the darkness and all that shit. I understand. But damn it, man, you're sacrificing a shrine maiden and using her torture and suffering to satisfy an angry being on the other side of this huge-ass door just for 10 years. Like, there's got to be a better solution. There's got to be like a more permanent solution. Like, why do people always have to just, every 10 to 12 years, like, oh my God, just find a better solution. That's just my theory. Just find a better solution. Like, if there's not a better solution, let it happen. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And otherwise, we end up with the events of Fatal Frame 1. But because of this ritual failing and stuff and everybody dying, she comes back as a malicious ghost, forever haunting and killing anybody who comes into this mansion. And the reason why she kidnapped Matthew is because he has a striking resemblance to her lover. So, of course, the sister, Miku, she goes in and she's got to go through this entire mansion fighting off the ghost of, like, the head, the owner of the house, and of poor unfortunate souls who got caught in the crossfire of when the Hellish Abyss opened and everything. Just, she goes through all this shit, gets down there, and this is also a staple in any Fatal Frame franchise. Once she gets down there, defeats the final boss, she then goes, all right, brother, let's go. Come on, let's move it. And he just goes, no, I'm going to stay. And we have this entire monologue dedicated to why he stayed, which I can get his reasoning. You know, she's here. She's going to be here to suffer alone for all of eternity to keep these gates closed. She's going to be the one to suffer. So why should she suffer alone? So he sacrifices his life while his sister gets out. And she sees all the ghosts and everything at the end, you know, go up into the sky, and it's so beautiful and gorgeous and everything. And, you know, of course, she's sad about the death of her brother. And that's actually the canon ending to this game. And, you know, like I said, there's multiple endings, and apparently there's actually an ending where you can run off with the brother and everything's fine. But in this ending, he unfortunately dies. And this is canon. This actually ties into the third game. But, yeah, I thought the story was pretty good. It's pretty basic, you know, point A to point B, you know, go find missing brother, fight ghost, find missing brother. But, like I said, the staple of the game is every time they go find, at least the first two games, I can say, they go to find their, the missing sibling, and, well, somebody's got to die. Like, that's just it. It's like that moment for National Treasure. Well, somebody's got to go to prison, Ben. Somebody has to die in this game. Somebody has to. Unfortunately, it was her brother. But overall, I thought the atmosphere was really, really good in this game. I thought the ghosts, just the introductions of the ghosts held up somewhat well. Like I said, the graphics were pretty good. Some of the ghosts, I will say, are a little gimmicky in some aspects because of the fact that for some of them there's not a lot of detail. You know, they're just like disembowel, like deformed figures, kind of like pointed at the bottom like a Casper thing. You know, maybe, you know, they crawl around, stuff like that. Like, they got some good ghost designs, but, you know, not the best in the franchise. I'm not gonna lie. I will say, Fatal Frame 4 has some of the best designs when it comes to ghosts that I've seen in all these games. I'm not just saying this because I played 4 and highly love 4. But looking at all the ghosts, like, archetypes, 4 had the best. 1 was okay. 1 was fine. Out of all the ghosts, and yeah, of course, you know, you have your specters. You know, there's like always over 100 specters you can find and everything. But out of all the ghosts, there's 23 main ghosts in this entire game that you have to fight. Which at first I thought was, you know, that's a lot of ghosts. That's a lot of ghosts. No. Apparently, another one beats it, and we'll get there when we get there. But looking at all the ghosts, I have to say the final boss, the Kyrie fight, her fight was pretty good. It's like, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of the final bosses for Fatal Frame, they're pretty set in stone as every other boss fight. They don't do anything kind of overly unique to each boss fight to make it stand out. You know, like certain, like you go like fight, you know, your little mini guys. And then you go fight your boss. And of course the boss has got like their super like crazy trick outs that they do in their final like insta kills and everything. And it's only like the final boss that has that. Yeah, no. A lot of the boss ghosts you fight here, they have their unique patterns, like any good you know, fight that you have in a video game. You know, they got their certain patterns that they follow, but they don't do anything too overly crazy that just blows your mind when it comes to fighting the final battle. And yeah, I can even say while watching the final boss, it didn't seem too bad. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm trying not to be that asshole just to be like, it seems so easy. I could have done it blindfolded. No. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying, just watching the final boss fight with the right setup and RNG, it seems like a pretty decently easy boss fight. It's not like the end of the world, especially if you fuck up. I want to say it's this one that does, because there was one of them I did see that I saw somebody was struggling like hard as hell on. I want to say it was the third game. The third game had like the hardest final boss out of all the games. I will say, 4, I went in there ready to tussle like a motherfucker. And, oh my god, we'll get there when we get there. Let's just say I was ready to tussle with this final boss, and I was just like, oh, by the end of it. But yeah, her boss fight's pretty good. Now, something I'm going to do at the end of each game is tell you the cool ghosts. Like, going through the entire listing, I picked out one cool ghost that I thought was the coolest ghost out of all the ghosts, and I'll explain a reason why. Out of all the ghosts I saw and looked through for Final Fatal Frame 1, I thought the Broken Neck Lady one was really, really good. Now, I know a lot of y'all are like, but why didn't you put the guy who originally scared you and got you into this game? He's cool, don't get me wrong. But that Broken Neck Lady, she scared the hell out of me during her first introduction. When they walk outside, she just like comes like upside down to you or something like that. It was crazy. And it startled the hell out of me. And then watching her, like her actual like design, it's freaky because her head is literally like bent all the way back and she's coming at you while she's floating backwards. And that shit's disturbing as hell. So, hands down, gotta give her coolest ghost of the game. Also, real quick, to get kind of a bit of a timeline to these games, I got a timeline to the, I want to say the first 4 games. The first game took place basically in 1986. The second game is supposed to take place in 1988. The third game takes place sometime after, I'm going to say like 80, maybe in the 90s. I want to say in the 90s anyway, because it's been like a couple of years since they talk about it in the third game. The fourth game, funny enough, is almost like a prequel. That takes place originally in 1970, and then it's like 10 years later, so we're in 1980. And the fifth game, I don't think I actually got a year for that one. I think that was the only one I couldn't get an actual year. Even with guessing, I couldn't get it. With the third game, I'm taking a guess here because they never sit down and say, this one took place exactly, like for some reason, the first one, the second one, and the third one specifically tell you this is the year it took place. But the third one and the fifth game, they don't really tell you what year these games take place. So, on to Fatal Frame 2. Like I said, it's supposed to be the scariest game of all time. This is according to everybody I've talked to about the Fatal Frame franchise. They say this is hands down the scariest one they've ever played. They would love this one to be remade. And I actually can agree. Watching the gameplay footage, I actually agree. They had this one, like we thought the first one had some great atmosphere. This atmosphere was, oh my god, what they did with the village. Like, they took this huge ass, not really huge ass village, it's a decent sized village, but they took this whole village and just made it creepy. Just like from the fog effects, the weird sound effects, the fact that you have to say by these little paper red lanterns just added an intense glow to the area. And in some ways, you should feel safe when you are not safe, but should be scared when you see red lights. Usually red lights in any kind of horror movie means danger, run away. Yeah, we all know the color grade of horror movies. But in this game, the red light's actually a good thing. The red is beautiful. The red is calm. The red is happy. And you'll see that in this game. Red is fucking everywhere. I don't know why. This one is the only one in the whole franchise that specifically uses a lot of red. Like you notice the first one, that one had more of a lot of grainy, like dark, shadowy areas, a lot more like natural candle lighting and everything like that. This one uses a lot of reds, a lot of red candles, red lanterns, fucking the red butterflies, crimson. I mean, hell, it's called Crimson Butterfly. So, yeah, I mean, hell, even the Crimson Butterfly tattoo she gets at the end of the game, that thing is fucking red. And then in the third game, we have a lot of blues, a lot of saturated blues, and I love those blues. Yeah, y'all know me, my blues. And in the fourth game, I've noticed they use a lot of dark shadowies and a lot of blues and a lot of grays. And in the fifth game, they use a lot of blacks. A lot of blacks. Some blues, and some natural lighting, of course, but a lot of blacks. I'm not saying that they lack color in the fifth game, but because everything's so dreary and wet and cold, you really can't add a lot of color to it, So there is some blues and some little bit of water and reflected light from the moon and shit, and from the lanterns and everything. But it's just a lot of saturated brightness because you're in the woods a lot. You're in these dark, abandoned, decrepit places that have no light shining through except the moonlight. So it's just dark. It's really dark in that game. But yeah, but Crimson Butterfly though, lots of reds, and I love that. I really love it, and they have refined everything from the first game to this one. But unfortunately, they still got a little bit of those tank controls going on, because this game only came out in 2003, so tank controls were still in. They haven't quite, I think this is around the time they started somewhat phasing the tank controls out. I know come the third game, the tank controls and the fixed camera perspective is also gone. But this game really, really, buckled down. They went ham. They refined everything and did it better. They when doing the tank controls and setting up the graphical designs, they made it a little bit more open, so you wouldn't get caught up on random objects. Like I've noticed that watching some gameplay footage of the first game, you'll be walking and you just hit like a random invisible wall, just like a corner of the wall. And I'm assuming it's because of the PlayStation graphics at the time, with designing games and everything. It was a little bit more bulky. So you would hit these random walls and you have to like track these walls to move. Well, because, now they got this open ass village, it was a lot easier to maneuver things around. So they really, fixed that aspect. They fixed the graphics. They toned down a lot of the creepier, generic sound effects that we heard from the first game. So no more like random, insert random woman screaming number 4 from your Wondershare folder or anything like that. They really toned a lot of that shit down. But I will say, this was the one that really fucked up the sound effect for the camera obscura for me. Because, man, they went with this high-pitched whine. And my ears are sensitive. I do not like certain high-pitched frequencies. And it really, grades on my ears. And for some reason, they decided to go with this frequency to use the sound effects on this camera, and it's grating on my ears. Like I would have to play Crimson Butterfly with the camera obscura sound effects turned down a little bit, because I can handle it for a while, but it just starts just building up, and it almost sounds like oh god, how did the one guy describe it? It was like dubstep farted or something like that. I mean, it was just a really weird song, very off-putting. And I get they were probably trying to go for a more unsettling sound compared to the camera sound of the first game that just like tickled the ear. That just tickled my eardrums. It just tickled my eardrums. The second one though, it was just kind of off-putting and not really unsettling, just more a nuisance to me. But I'm assuming they were going for more of an unsettling sound, which I can't get too mad about. I really can't get too mad about. Again, we still had the beautiful third-person fixed camera perspectives that they just do so wonderfully. We also had a new edition where we have sections dedicated to a buddy system. Because this one's all about two sisters, Miyu and Mayu, who are at their childhood hangout spot, and one of the sisters goes wandering off, and the other one follows, and they wind up in this abandoned village. And they keep getting split up and everything, but there are some points in this game where you have to walk with a sister, and she's not as complicated as, say, Ashley from Resident Evil 4, but you still got a buddy companion that you have to watch out for, because she can't defend for herself, so you got to protect her and everything. And that's actually an interesting dynamic, because, and I've always said this, and I'll continue on to say this, when in a horror game you start adding a buddy dynamic to it, it could really make or break the atmosphere and the tension building that you have going on in your game, because of the fact that now you have someone you can bounce jokes off of. You got someone you can talk to. You got someone just, hey man, I'm scared too, hold me. You have somebody there. But when you're alone, you're just like, oh shit, I'm alone. I got no one to hold me. You're breaking down that song from Shrek. That donkey saying, but you gotta have friends. That stupid ass song. But yeah, with a buddy companion, it can make or break it. But because again, a good survival horror game, you have to protect her. So she's not that comforting person, but she's not as annoying as Ashley. She's just as defenseless as Ashley, don't get me wrong. That girl, she can't throw a rock or anything. But she's not supposed to. That's just the whole point of her character. She's the little sister, I want to say. I always forget who's the oldest and who's the youngest. But, unfortunately, though, I will say this is a bit of a staple for the game franchise as well. Backtracking. There is some backtracking sections. The first game, it really wasn't too predominant. I did notice, for a couple of the puzzles, especially, I think it was for this one mask puzzle. We had to go in and out of certain rooms and start rearranging masks. That's about as complicated as it got. when it came to backtracking and shit. You know, maybe you had to go down a room or two. I know in 4 there really wasn't a lot of. I mean, there was some quote unquote backtracking, but it was more as in you're playing another character in the same location, just going backwards into the location. If that makes any sense. But yeah, they unfortunately have some backtracking, and because of this makes it to where certain bosses can actually appear at weird locations. Like the one guy I was watching who did Crimson Butterflies walkthrough, he walked into one of the, oh god, it was the woman in the box. You know, the woman in the box. He walked in there, and she came out, you know, did her normal ghosting. He fought her like pretty early, because this one was a lot longer than the first game. I am going to say this, a lot longer than the first game. I want to say it's got, how many chapters did it have? Shit, I didn't write that down. Damn, I'm a fool. I'm a damn fool. But, you know, you got, it was probably about, I want to say like 45, maybe an hour into the game, he, you know, fights this ghost. And then a few hours later, he comes back, you know, because he had to backtrack through this mission. And he had to fight the same ghost, but this time there was an actual introduction, actual camera moment, like a cutscene and everything. So it was a little weird, the fact that we walk to this one room, we fight her, then we have to fight her again, but the second time we fight her, that's when we get the cutscene. And I kind of get the backtracking in some aspects, because a lot of times I've accidentally backtracked. Like in the 4th game, I started wandering around. I realized while watching the Fatal Frame all these videos for the franchise video, you don't want to start wandering, because, you know, eventually you're going to walk into a place you shouldn't be walking into. Now, I will say some of the games got better over time about kind of directing you to where you need to go. I will say the 4th game had one of the better ways to direct you where you need to go, where, you know, you get done, like, say you get done with a mission, you go out to a room to go to a save point, because it's conveniently a close save point. You get there, and a ghost would appear and lead you into the direction you need to go. And I thought that was pretty clever, unlike in the 5th game, where it was kind of like Dead Space, where you had like a ghost spirit kind of walking you through that you could actually push at like a fucking like button. It was basically a button. You push it, oh, there you go, you're supposed to go that way. It kind of like hold your hand through it. I get it, especially with how like all the backtracking you gotta do in that fucking game, but the fact that they weren't very creative with it. Like the 4th game, that was creative as hell, I'm not gonna lie. And when we get to the 4th game, I'm gonna make some sweet passionate love to this game. But with the first 2 games, when it came to backtracking, they didn't have anything like that. So you would just wander aimlessly for a little while unless you were reading certain things that told you where you needed to go. So, you know, I feel like if they were going to do something like that, maybe, you know, lock her behind an invisible wall for a minute, or just add the fucking cutscene for, you know, if it happens, and the second time as you come through, just don't have the cutscene or something like that. But, yeah, other than, you know, a lot of the backtracking and repeated boss fights because of the backtracking, you know, the game is really solid, really good. Like I said, the graphics hold up well. Again, guys, it's a little cliche. I will say, y'all remember in Resident Evil 4 how Ashley kept getting kidnapped, and then we'll save her, and then she'd get kidnapped again, then we'll save her, and then she'd get kidnapped yet again, then we had to go save her again? It's kind of the same thing that happens here, where the sisters would be together and split up, and then they'll meet, and then she'll go save her, and then they'll split up again because, you know, ghosts and bullshit and possessions. And this happened repeatedly, to a point that even I was just like, okay, there's only so many ways, so many times that she could just either wander off because she's chasing the fucking butterfly, or that the ghost appear and separates them. There's only so many times you can do this before it starts getting really repetitive. And I will say, they got really repetitive. I was just having that moment from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, just, oh, your sister went missing again? Must be Tuesday. Good to know. Good to know. But, you know, but besides that, I say the story holds up pretty well. I like the story, and this is basically the story. In 1988, two twin sisters, Mayu and Miyu, were exploring an abandoned village where Mayu is possessed because she. Okay, hang on a second. Mayu is possessed because they think she is the ancestor, or is basically the part of a set of twin ghosts who again were part of a ritual. Let me just dive straight on into this. But yeah, they're targeted because of all this shit, so they end up being trapped in this village to be used as the dark ritual. But this one actually takes place in a fictional region. The two sisters go to their favorite spot, and Mayu ends up following the Crimson Butterfly. They end up finding the village after it suddenly turns night, and they get lost, and the creepy fog rolls in, kind of like a Silent Hill thing. And the ritual in this one is called the Crimson Sacrifice Ritual. A pair of twin sisters are needed. The eldest twin must strangle the younger one, as one is to guard the village as the butterfly, and the older is to stay in the living world as the remaining. Again, this is another dark ritual where we have to appease the darkness underneath the village. Otherwise, terrible things will happen. So unfortunately, one sister's got to go through psychological trauma of killing her other sister as the other one dies, and her spirit is now forever guarding the gates of this village as a fucking butterfly. So, some aspects, because, the Crimson Butterfly is the icon of the game. And again, like I said, red's supposed to mean danger, but in this game, red means comfort, guardianships, guidance. Because that's what the Crimson Butterflies are supposed to be, protectors. But the original sisters, Ye and Sei, they didn't want to take part of the ritual. This is one of those ones where nobody fell in love or anything. They just didn't want to take part of the ritual. Because again, you're supposed to kill your sister. How are you supposed to live with this shit? So they escaped. And unfortunately, one of them got caught. And because of the panicness of the town, because, they're kind of reaching that fucking deadline. I don't know why. These sisters waited to the last minute to leave. Like, they knew from the get-go they needed to get the hell out of this village. But they decided to stay for a little while. And because of that decision, they waited to the last minute to leave. And one of them got caught, which was Sei. And she was hung to appease this being, and unfortunately he wasn't satisfied. He was just like, nah, this ain't what I signed up for. Every 10 years I'm supposed to watch one sister kill the other one. Like, where's my sister? God, what is this? Not patricide or matricide. What's the one where you kill your siblings? Yeah, he's there to see that one repeatedly. He wants to see that one. And this one is just called the Hellish Abyss now. And the first one was the Hell's Gate, the Malice, and this one is just the Hellish Abyss. And because of, the entity or whatever not being completely satisfied, the repentance happens, casting everything into darkness. And unfortunately, because Sei died, she would not be completely satisfied and happy until she's reunited with her sister again. So thus is why she is basically killing the entire village, because she's like, if I'm dead, I'm going to be with my sister. Fuck all you guys. All that bullshit. But because of this, though, and that's why the sisters are targeted, because they look like Sei and Ye from back in the day. And Mayu is supposed to represent, I want to say, Sei, who is, no, not Sei, Ye, who is the, I don't know if she's supposed to be the oldest or the youngest one. I don't know who is supposed to be who. But the big plot twist in this whole game is the eldest twin is the one born second, because the way the legend is, or the way the superstition is, the eldest twin is born second to allow the weaker twin to go first. So we thought our main gal, Mayu, who we were playing as for a majority of the game, We thought she was the one that was supposed to be killed during this ritual because, no one told him up to the end of the game what the hell is supposed to happen. So we're thinking our main character is trying to get out of this so she doesn't die. No, it turns out she's got to kill her sister, the younger one. And unfortunately, you feel sorry for this younger sister. Yeah, I want to say Mayu's supposed to be the younger sister. It's supposed to be Ye, and Sei's supposed to represent Mayu. But Mayu, she's got to do something hard and shit, so she doesn't want to do it. And again, like I said, you're supposed to feel sorry for the younger sister because when they were younger kids, she fell and hurt her legs. And throughout this whole game, she walks with a limp, like a very sad limp. So you're supposed to really feel for this poor girl. And I really feel for her. So unfortunately, when it's time to do the ritual, they actually agree to do it. They agree to do it to end this darkness, to end the problem and everything. So of course, we get there after having to follow our sister. Because there's actually an ending near the end of this game where you can just straight up leave the village. Like, you just be like, alright, deuces, bye, and leave your sister there to die alone. I'm like, that's a fucked up ending. But the canon ending is she goes there, they do the fight, they decide to do the ritual, so she strangles her sister, ending the curse, lifting everything. The lights start going, but they're all crimson butterflies. And as the crimson butterflies are flying off out of the village, of course, Mayu's sitting there going, I'm sorry, I love you, you're my sister, I love you, I'm sorry I had to do this. And it ends with, by the way, a very kick-ass song, which I forgot to mention that. Her name is Ameno. Fantastic singer. She does majority of the vocal songs for Fatal Frame. She's been in several of these games. And she's a fantastic singer. But, yeah, it ends with her having the Crimson Butterfly tattoo. She's sitting on a park bench where this beautiful lake has been put after they destroyed the village. So she carries on as the remaining, while her sister, ended up being the Crimson Butterfly as the guardian. So, Sei being the final boss, that seemed like a fun boss fight. It was another, great time, good pattern maneuvers, She didn't seem too complicated. She had her moments. She had her moments, I'm not gonna lie, especially with that one where she fucking, dips out of the camera and shit. Just some crazy shit. Now, the coolest ghost, I would have to say, out of all the ghosts I saw, he was called the Rope Man. Apparently, he's one of the main ghosts you could fight in this game. But that man looked terrifying as hell. He looked like the Oni, like a very skinny Oni from Dead by Daylight. And that man just ooh, he scared me. He scared me. I liked him though. So yeah, if I ever can get my hands on this game, I definitely would play it. I'll play it on stream if I could. I'll fucking play it on stream. But this one had 25 ghosts that you could fight in this. Funny enough, Kikuchi, he called this one Fatal Frame 2.5 because of all the refinement they did to this game. And again, they've done very well. Still, the tank controls, great graphics, the fixed third-person perspective cameras. Loved it. And again, I can see why it's the scariest game of all time. It's a good game. I highly recommend it from what I've seen. Like I said, I would recommend all these games. All of them for their own individual reasons. But this one had a good story to it. This one had a great message to it, And the message is, love your siblings. Love them because you never know how long they're going to be. Okay, I don't know if that's the actual message, but that's what I got from it. Just love your sibling. That's what I got from the first two games. This one and the first one. Love your siblings because you don't know how long they are in this world. Because they might decide they want to be sacrificed to stop this curse that is affecting this area we just happen to be in. But now let's go on to Fatal Frame 3. The Torment. This one actually, I want to say, has got the second lowest amount of ghosts in the entire game franchise. coming in at roughly 15 ghosts. Now that's the second lowest compared to, like I said, the first two games, which had 23 to 25 ghosts. This one had 15 ghosts. And I want to say, I see a good balance from what they took from both the first two games that have been combined to do this game. Because this one sold 69,000 units compared to the original only sold 22,000 on its first upcoming time. The second game, I want to say, roughly sold close to the same amount, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. This was one of those ones I couldn't find a unit sold on for some reason. Like every other one except for the fifth one, like I said, I could not find a unit sold. There's a lot of good praise about the game. I'm not gonna lie. There was a whole bunch of like game articles talking about how great the game was and how scary it is and wonderful and all that shit. But Fatal Frame 3, this one came out in 2005. So we're seeing also a good pattern when it comes to the years. The first game coming out in 2001. Then 2003 for the second one, and then 2005. So they're doing a good amount of time for each of these games. Roughly about 2 years from the first game to the second game, and then 2 years from the second game to the third game. So these people really care about their games. They're taking the time and effort to polish them and make sure they're good. And I will say, one of the interesting facts I found about this one is that they want to do interactive fear. They wanted interactive fear when it came to this game. So you'll notice that the protagonist, the fear keeps growing the more and more they find out about what's going on in this game, which has something to do with this curse that's happening. And there is another interesting thing about this game is that there is a real world base, or like a dual locations, where you have the main character's apartment building that you hang around and do your research in. You find a couple of ghosts and stuff. And then you have another location that is called the Dream Manor, or the Sleep Manor. Alright, hang on. The Manor of Sleep, that's what it's called. The Manor of Sleep. And you go there when you go to sleep, obviously from the fucking name, but let me clarify. When you literally go to sleep, you go to this manor. So there's dual location. Now compared to the first two games that only had a one set location and then all this traveling around. This one ups the notches of how long the games are, especially compared to the second game, especially compared to the first game. Oh, excuse me, more. This game is huge. I looked at the map to the Manor of Sleep and I nearly shit a brick. I'm not gonna lie, this map is huge. It's bigger than RPD's map. And that's saying something, because RPD's got a pretty decent sized map. This map is huge though. So yeah, it's gonna take you a lot, especially with all these backtracking and shit you gotta do, because yes, they brought back backtracking in this game because that's a staple in Fatal Frame. The sounds, they ended up going back to the sounds from the first one. So they brought back the lovely camera sound that just tickled your ear again. They brought back a lot of the creepy atmospheric sounds. Not the generic sounds that we've heard, but they brought a lot of that back. So the graphics are really good and hold up well. And like I said during my talk about Crimson Butterfly, this one's got a lot of blues, a lot of beautiful lighting. So yeah, the game looks great. And funny enough, this is the one where we have everything tied in together. We got Miku from the first game returning. And we also got, I think they call him K, who is the uncle to the twins in the second game. And they actually state this all out, like straight up, they talk about it and everything. But yeah, this is our connection from the first two games, is that we got Miku, one of the literal characters from the first game, and then someone related to the twins in the second game. Which I thought that was an interesting little twist, little nod on, especially to tie in all three games together. I thought that was great. I will say there was an interesting exploit I found out about this game, though. There was an interesting exploit. So because there's dual dual worlds you can go to. At a certain point in the game, you can willingly leave the mansion and go to the real world so you can save and do whatever, and then go back to sleep. Well, somebody tested something out where if you're in the manor and you go in, just search a little bit, and you grab some items, and then you leave and then come back, those items respawn. So apparently you can grind up a bunch of fucking like film, herbs, anything you need, they're right there, and you can just respawn them over and over again. So I thought that was an interesting exploit. I thought that was an interesting exploit. This was the one that had the boss fight that was bullshit. This one was the one. We'll get there when we get to her section. But yeah, they added a lot of interesting details from the first two games. A lot of features from the first two games they brought back into this game. This one though had more of a tragic story than anything else. I'm not gonna lie, this story was tragic because we've all been here. I'm not gonna lie, we've all been here, especially because this is a tragic story, tragic. And I don't mean that as a joking way. It's just it really is tragic. But our main character, Ray, she has survived a car crash in the beginning of the game. Like, we literally open with this car crash, her crawling out, and her fiance died. Terrible tragedy. So she does what a typical person does. She threw herself into her work, into taking pictures out on locations, and she's depressed. She's saddened. She misses her fiance. We've all been there when we lost someone we truly care and love about. We will do everything we can to avoid the topic and not deal with our grief. And this is what the whole game is about, dealing with your grief and not dealing with it by yourself, actually dealing with it with other people, letting people in to help you out. This is a game that is just going to make you feel shit, not just scared, but make you feel emotions from these characters, because they got some good dialogue here. They got some fantastic dialogue, and the story just it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Now, I will say the audio acting is not that great. Let me explain. I don't know how they recorded the audio back for this third game, but the English translation for this third game sounds like they're talking into a can, like a tin can. And now, don't get me wrong, the audio for the other two English translations, they're not too great, but they're not too bad either. Like, the third game out of the three games had the best audio because they actually had, emotion and feeling and shit. It's just, it was hard to hear because, they're talking into a tin can just about. The first one, unfortunately, just... I'm not saying they deliver some lines flat, but they deliver some lines flat. And the second one has some pretty good voice acting to it. But, yeah, for some reason, the audio just sounds like they're just in a tin can in this one. But, to carry on with the plot of this particular game is because, she's depressed and everything, she's throwing herself into her work, she's been afflicted by this curse. Yeah, not a ritual this time. It's a curse. Brought on by a ritual. Again, there's always a dark ritual involved in these games. But this particular curse is a maiden. Again with the maidens. Is brought in to get... oh God, what is it? A tattoo of grief is put on her body, and then she is impaled in a sacred chamber. Well, unfortunately, it failed because of the fact that she fell in love, and this is where they fucked up at. Not only did she fall in love, not only did they kill her love, they killed her love right in front of her as she was doing the fucking ritual. So she was dying and forced to look and stare at the dead body of her lover that's in front of her. So of course she was mad, and the ritual failed, and yeah, she cursed. She just cursed the area. She cursed the they call it the Kazu shrine, and basically the curse is like Ray. She is depressed. She lost someone she loves, so the curse will infect her and bring her into the streets, into the manner of sleep. And the more you go into the manner of sleep, the more you want to sleep, the more crazy you're to get, and then eventually you go into a coma and you stay in this realm forever while your body is trapped, you know, in the real world. While your body is trapped in this real world, your spirit, your soul, your whole being is trapped in this manner of sleep, and it's slowly just eating at you, eating you away, because it gives you what you want. It gives you that loved one. It doesn't fully give it to you, though. It's not like it's like, oh, in this room, here you go, there's your loved one that you miss so much. No, it fucks with you. You go in there and you think you see your loved one, so you start running through this mansion trying to find your loved one, and you'll never find them except from afar, from like the corner. And you may occasionally have like maybe a small conversation with them, but then they'll run off again. That's what makes this game cruel. Not only is the opening brutal because of the car wreck, but the fact that this curse could affect anybody. Anyone who has gone through such a tragic and loss like she did. Like the person who, you know, the maiden who put the curse on everybody. Anybody can go through this depression. And the fact that she uses sleep to get you to come into this realm, that's even more scary because of the fact that you need sleep. This is what made Nightmare on Elm Street so scary for the time when it came out. You need sleep to function. You need sleep to live. Like, straight up, if you do not sleep, your brain will eventually shut down for you to sleep. And sometimes you don't wake the fuck up. But I find it so cruel. And I find, you know, especially like in revenge plots or like ghosts coming at you, kind of things like that. When the ghost has a plan like this, it is really scary because they're fucking with you. They're not just bringing you to this haunted area and killing you and making your soul just die. No, she is trapping you in this realm to forever hunt down your lost loved one as she slowly drains your life form. That's fucked up. Like, I'd rather you just kill me, bro. I'd rather just walk into the house and be killed by a ghost and then have to relive the death over and over again. I don't want to be fucked with. And that is what she's doing. So, you know, the more our main characters, Kay, Ray, and Miku, the more they go into the sleep realm. And what makes this actually kind of interesting, if I may digress for a second, is that each one has their own unique manner of sleep. Like, it's Kay. Kay is actually in the village from the second game, and Miku is actually in the manor from the first game. Not like full renderings of it. It's just bits and pieces of like certain iconic areas from each of these locations. Like, I want to say Miku walks by that hallway with the fucking mirror. That's iconic as hell. Yeah, she walks by that a couple of times. She gets to other locations, and they retool these areas for this manor. So that's what makes each person's perspective when they go to sleep very unique and interesting, because of the fact that these are not only nods to us as fans who have played the other two games or watched these other two games, but as these characters are, it shows you the writing, how they're affected. Even though, like the K's being the uncle, wasn't in the village. The fact that one of his nieces went missing and the other one is traumatized by this has probably haunted him and has bothered him. And of course, Miku she's dealing with her own thing. She's just like Ray in this aspect because she's dealing with the loss of her brother. She loved her brother, and we get more into the love of her brother come the 5th game. Like the 5th game, the 5th game did some shit. The 5th game did some shit. But in this game, she's still dealing with the grief and the loss of her brother. So her and Ray really connect and understand each other, which I don't get why they didn't talk about the manor together, because they both know that, you know, this manor is real, but they won't talk to each other about this manor. But the fact that she understands what Ray's going through, it really adds character development, and actually, like, really good writing. It's just really good fucking writing. And again, that's something that's a staple in Fatal Frame. Just great writing. But, you know, after Ray goes in and out a couple of nights, she starts getting a tattoo forming on her back, just like the maiden did. And eventually she's got to fight the maiden and save everybody, get everybody out of this dream world. And if you beat the game on I want to say it's like hardcore mode, nightmare mode or something, everybody gets kind of a happily ever after. Everybody wakes up out of the dream state, because I think at the end of the game, if I remember correctly, everyone ends up going to sleep. They go to the manor because everyone's, you know, trying to deal with the bullshit of the manor. And originally it was Miku and Ray wake up, but Kay ends up staying in a coma and staying at the house, and she's doing on nightmare mode. Everybody wakes up and everybody's happy and we're good. I want to say that's the canon ending too. But yeah, I thought this one was really, really good story-wise. It actually has to be one of my favorite stories because of just how realistic the story can be. You know, the tragic passing of someone you love, and a ghost is now using that to get to you. And that's a common That's a common trait. Like, hell, you see that in a lot of demon movies and shit, where, you know, something tragic has happened, and now they're trying to commune with the spirits and accidentally open up a door to the fucking demon realm. But I have to say, Rikia, being the final boss, being the poor maiden who had to sit there and suffer, she a bitch. I'm not gonna lie, she a bitch. She a fucking bitch. The person that I watched playing this one struggled so hard because that RNG was so not fair. Like, even I was just like, that's some bullshit, man. Like, it took him, I think, 6-7 times to do it. Because 3 of the times, the ghost just spawned on top of his ass and insta-kill him, because she's an insta-kill ghost. And that's something, I want to say the other final bosses, you know, they weren't insta-kill bosses. I think, you know, they took a majority of your life, especially if you had, like, decent amount of life, and then, you know, they took majority of your life. But they weren't insta-kill. She was straight up insta-kill, just, like, right off the bat. Just as soon as she touched you, oh, dead. So he would go in there, and he had to walk down this long fucking pathway just to open up a room, just to get to another room to activate the boss fight. And it was such bullshit because that bitch would just spawn on top of him and just game over. I was like, if I could hear what he's saying right now, I'm sure it's every curse word underneath the sun, because this is ridiculous. But the coolest ghost I saw in this game was woman brushing. And I liked her design because of the fact that she has long hair that just flows in her body. Like, it was just really cool design-wise when it came to the ghost. You know, unfortunately, I will say 3... just kind of like 2, they had a lot of generic basic ghosts, with some of the more outstanding ghosts being some of the boss ghosts you can fight. But, you know, 3 has some pretty decent design for ghosts. Better than 1, I will say. Better than 1, but yeah. Hands down, she was the coolest ghost. Fatal Frame 3, I would love to play. Like, again, guys, all 3 of these games, I would love to actually sit down and play and give a full review on these games individually, because of the fact that they're so iconic and scary. Like, hell, like I said, I was watching playthrough of a lot of these games, and just watching, like, just the Fatal Frame 1, the first introduction, like I said, fucking scary, because of just how well built it is. And I would love to experience that, because I got scared as shit in the lunar eclipse. At certain points, there were some moments I was literally scared shitless. But speaking of, let's go ahead and head over to Fatal Frame 4. This one sold over 30,000 copies originally, 75,000. The remake, like I said, came out in 2023 earlier this year. And that one has sold over 120,000 copies right now. So again, it has everything to do with the fact that these games are slowly getting more and more mainstream, more nods as a, hey, iconic horror games of early 2000s. Fatal Frame. Even though we got gypped originally in this game, because this was one of the first ones that Nintendo worked on with Grasshopper. And this one was on the Wii system. Now, I will say, the Wii system let me down. Because originally I thought, that's actually a cool fucking premise. Because, you stand up, got to use the nunchucks to move around. You got your flashlight in your hand. You can pull up the camera, and then you can move the actual stick to move the camera around and take the pictures while you use the nunchucks to spin. You would think that would be the rather obvious thing. No, apparently you can only use the regular stick to look up and down when you pull up the camera, and you have to use the nunchuck to move the character left or right. And I was like, that's disappointing. That truly is disappointing. Because, fun fact, because I have a PS5, my controller has the kind of same maneuver as the nunchuck ability did in the Wii system. So I actually got to have full control over the full camera, and I had a ball moving the camera around with just the controller. Like, at some points I was pulling up the controller like it was an actual camera and was just moving this shit around. So I'm disappointed that the Wii didn't get to experience the sensation like I did. But I have to say, I love that feature. I love that feature in this game. Like, I'm always a sucker for any time they use the motion controllers for PlayStation. Because I don't see a lot of games do that. Like, I want to say one of the other games I used the motion control on was Until Dawn. I think it was one of the ones I actually used the controller the most on. But mainly, I haven't really used it too much. So it was a real nice treat to walk in and get to actually fuck around with the camera. So that's what I was really expecting when I was going into the original 2008 version of Fatal Frame 4. And so when I found out that it wasn't like that, I was like, I feel bad for you Wii people. Y'all got gypped. Funny enough, Kikuchi, who, the one of the creators, he actually liked the Wii hardware. That is why they chose the Wii to put it on there, because he was such a big fan of the hardware. And, unfortunately, because Nintendo, for some stupid-ass reason, didn't want to share, it was a Japanese-only exclusive up until this year. And I'm glad they released it. I really am. I had a blast playing this game. It has some great jump scares. Great graphics. I'm not going to lie. Great graphics. Unfortunately, this game started the new trend now. Or not started this new trend, but unfortunately kept the trend that the third game started. Because the third game, I forgot to mention this, but that is when they changed the camera perspective. We went from third person fixed camera perspective to third person behind the shoulder perspective, and the fourth game followed that same trend, unfortunately. But I'm not complaining too bad, because there are moments, especially in the remake, I noticed there are moments where we have certain camera looks that look pretty good in third person perspective. Mainly it's when you open a lot of the doors, but I like it. The flashlight was pretty interesting tool to use, I will say, on the Wii. But with the PlayStation, of course, it's just with the analog stick. Move left, right. That was fun. But you use the flashlight a lot in this game. Apparently, you don't just walk in the room and everything's shiny and waiting for you, like in the other games. No. You got to use the flashlight brighten everything, then come out with the camera and scan everything again just to make double, triple sure you got everything. But, you know, with Nunchuck, they did a good job with relaying the flashlight, which I thought was pretty cool. This mechanic, some people actually had a problem with. I personally don't really care either way when it comes to this type of mechanic, but it's the reach out mechanic. Where, of course, it's a typical reach out mechanic where you're going in to grab something, and if, you know, you reach it, you grab it, you're good. If you reach it, sometimes a ghost hand will come out of nowhere and scare you, making you drop it. So, I personally don't mind mechanics like that. I was having a blast doing this because at certain points, I was just goofing off and started doing squats with the character. Just, let's do some squats, guys, come on. And then I would reach for the item, and the fucking ghost hand would come out of nowhere, and I would, like, jerk back real quick and be like, this is why we do squats, everyone. This is why we do squats. We don't worry about this bullshit. Fuck this bullshit. But, I had a blast with it. I know other people didn't. I enjoyed it, though. Now, this one, this next part, though. Okay. I'm not saying the speed that everybody else walked in the other 3 games was like amazing or anything. You know, they had basic generic speed. You know, you had your sprint button, and if you use your sprint button in the first game, your little character, your little AI would freak the hell out. The sprint button in the second game was done a little bit better, and same thing with the third one. You have a good sprint. This game, you have to constantly hold down the sprint if you want to get anywhere quickly. Because this woman, all 3 of them, by the way, even the dude in this game, the handsome detective, this motherfucker, all of them walk extremely slow. Just base game, base speed, so slow. Just so slow. Like, I'm just like, I think I even made a comment while playing this game. Just like, man, bitch, pick up the pace or something, because you are going too damn slow. But, yeah, you gotta constantly hold down that sprint button, and I'm glad they put a sprint button, otherwise I would have been like, oh my god, imagine her speed, and having to do, like, forever backtracking, which, again, they fixed the backtracking in this game, so it didn't feel like backtracking, it just felt like you were playing, you were just coming in, with another character and going through that same area. I thought that was a really good one. I thought the scares were good. It was just a great game. Another interesting thing that they added that was unique to this game that the other 3 games didn't have was an in-game shop. And when I mean in-game shop is when you beat, you know, the first 3 games, you don't have, before you beat the games, you don't have a shop. You gotta beat the game to open up the shop, and that's when you can, like, stockpile herb medication, costumes, stuff like that. In this game, the shop's there at the save point, so you can literally save, go into the shop, and then fill your pockets up and buy the cute outfits and everything you want. But, yeah, I thought that was interesting. I can get why they probably started doing this come the 4th, and I want to say even the 5th game they did this. I can somewhat remember it, but not really. But I can understand, because you might want to change your outfit halfway through, especially if you finally get enough points to unlock that one outfit you really, really want. Boom, right there. Oh, you need some more herbs before you go fight that tremendously hard boss, because fuck that boss. Yeah, there it is right there. Oh, you're not stuck anymore? Good for you. Good for you. But yeah, I thought overall this was just a fantastic, fantastic game. This one took place originally in 1970, and then we do a 10-year time jump to 1980. But in 1970, a killer named Yo kidnaps 5 girls for a ritual. The Dark Ritual. And this one's called The Rite of Descent. Now, the Rite of Descent is supposed to be 5 girls who are known as the Organs, all play instruments emulating the moon sound. And as they're doing that, they all have to do this, by the way, under an eclipse. Hence the name of the game, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse. And at the time of doing the music during the lunar eclipse, a woman has to be in the middle wearing the mask. and dances around to the sound of the moon songs to appease the gods and keep them happy. All nice, fun, and dandy, you know, no evil deed, you know, no like sacrificing the, you know, keep the hell gates, you know, nothing crazy like that. It's just to appease some gods. Seems simple enough. No. No, no, no. See, this is how it failed. So, why they're doing this ritual at the same exact time, at the same exact moment, literally right above them, because they're doing this all underground, right above them, a similar thing is happening. A similar rite of descent is happening right above them for a festival for a bunch of tourists. And now, I know I'm not one to understand rituals too terribly well, but I'm pretty sure doing two rituals, one being a mock ritual and one being the actual ritual at the exact same time in almost the exact same place is never a good thing. It's never a good thing. You know, no one ever writes, this is a wonderful idea to do a fake ritual with a real ritual at the same time. Nobody's ever written that. But whoop-de-fucking-do, here they are doing this, and guess what happens? The ghosts, or the gods or whatever, didn't like this shit. They did not like this shit. So at the exact same time this is happening, the woman ends up going, the vessel, that's the name of the dancer, she's called the vessel, ends up going into a coma. The 5 girls who are used as the organs end up passing out and getting their memory wiped, and the ones doing the ritual upstairs ends up dying. Those poor people. The poor ones doing the mock ritual got the fuck in that stick. But that is where our main character ends up coming in at Rukia and Misaka and I want to say his name is Chishiro. I call him my handsome detective though. This is where our 3 main characters come in. Rukia and Misaka are 2 of the 5 missing girls from that ritual originally who got their memory wipes, and they're coming back to the island to remember the lost memories and what happened, because apparently after they left 2 years later after the failed ritual, the vessel woke up, and because she woke up she blossomed, because there's this whole thing. By the way, let me digress for a second, backtrack for a minute. There's this whole thing in the game where Rukia, Misaka, and these other girls are all in this sanitarium because they're all infected by a moonlight syndrome, which is basically this weird disease where they're not sleeping, they're losing their memories, they're attracted to the moon, they're trying to kill themselves, and this happened all after the ritual failed. And unfortunately, it just got worse for them after the ritual failed. Let me rephrase that. It got worse for them after the ritual failed. But they were already dealing with their memory losses, and especially Rukia. She can't remember her family. There's actually several letters. It's almost like a crime drama in some aspects, or like a hospital drama, because you're reading patient notes and actual patient diary and journals and stuff, and you find out that these people are affected with the disease that's basically making them forget, making them not remember, and the actual message. There's that, I will say the 3rd game and the 4th game has some good messaging, like real good messaging. The 3rd game is all about, letting go, opening up, moving on. This one's all about sometimes forgetting is the best thing to do. Sometimes you do not want to open Pandora's box and relive this shit, because throughout this game, the more these girls remember their memories, the worse they get, and then they end up dying. Like how one patient ended up getting her memories back and then killing herself because she just couldn't deal with it. And Rukia, she's got to deal with, having that on the one side, and having the fact that she can't remember her family all that well. Like she couldn't remember her father's face. And funny enough, her father is the whole reason they're in this situation. Apparently her father was the mask maker for the Mask of the Lunar Eclipse. And he went, diligently, spent hours and hours just crafting this mask like his ancestors, because apparently their family made the mask. And his wife, Rukia's mom, she is a Shrine Maiden descendant. So, there's a lot of heavy richness to this whole ritual between both sides of the family. So he took honor and pride in this, and when it failed, he blamed himself, then he blamed the vessel. Like, there's a lot of blame being passed around, and at the end, when it all came at him, he was just like, yeah, the time's come, I'm gonna let her come get me. Because, like I said, when she did the dance, because she was under the Moonlight Syndrome, it fucked up the ritual at the same time the festival ritual was going on, the fake ritual. So because of all this, bullshit happening, this whole calamity happening at once, she ends up going to coma and quote-unquote called blossoming, which means her face starts getting distorted and you can't really see, her face or her features. But if you look at her, you die. You die. And that's what ended up happening. 2 years later, she ends up waking from a coma and killing the entire island because they looked at her. And let me also tell you another good plot twist. This entire plot. This one blew my mind. I even made a joke about this during my playthrough of the game. So you're playing Hanson the Detective, right? And as you're playing Hanson the Detective, and you're going back with Rukia and her tragicness of her being chosen as an organ to be used in this ritual. That's why she's affected, because she was chosen by Yo, who kidnapped her from the fake ritual going on upstairs. But Hanson the Detective, in these flashbacks, looks kind of the same. We don't get like a full detail of him, but I saw a silhouette and I was like, that kind of looks like Hanson Detective over there. And throughout this whole game, Hanson Detective is talking to Riku's mom and, trying to save the girls and everything. And it turns out at the end, he's been dead this whole time. He apparently died like a few weeks or a few months before she woke up from a coma. And here's another big plot twist. She, the vessel, is the sister of Yo, who's the kidnapper of the 5 girls. It's all connected. Everybody. It's like a small town. Everybody knows everybody. But she, being the sister and everything, or him being the brother to her, he was very close to this whole situation. So, the Hanson Detective was on his ass the entire time. Caught up with him. Dude stabbed him on the roof, and then Hanson Detective, being the handsome detective he is, says, if I'm dying, I'm taking you with me. And under the light of the full moon, charged him on the roof, and both went over the railing and died. And then we're left zooming out on his body with him just standing there going, I understand now. The entire time I'm like, I don't understand. And then it slowly clicks together that he's been dead this entire time. I'm just like, oh shit, I've been playing a ghost. I thought that was a really good twist. I really did. Because I was just like, wait a minute. That means Rukia's mom's dead too, because she's been on the phone with her. With the guy. And they actually met or talked in person or so. Oh, they talked in person first. Or something like that. But the point is, she's dead too. So at one point in the game, I'm just like, is everybody just dead? Is everybody... They had me questioning whether Rukia was actually dead or not. But, because of, all this, sadness and, this whole bullshit with the ritual going on. And unfortunately, a lot of these ghosts were caught in circumstances. Like, the one who was chosen as a vessel for the mock ritual upstairs with the tourists, she was brought here by her, one of her relatives. And she was brought in as a nurse, and everyone was so warm and open and loved her, and she felt very welcomed. And then she got chosen to be, you know, the vessel for this ritual dance. And she was just like, you know what, this isn't honor. It's just a fake, you know, a fake mockery. No big deal. I got this. Then she died. And I felt really bad because we read some of her notes about this. She was so excited. So excited. Like, oh my God. Again, great writing though. But yeah, at the end of the game, after going through this entire sanctum where you as a child grew up and all your friends have, because at this point, I think like 3 of her friends ended up dead. Like, one of them ended up dead like 5 minutes before she got there. The other 2 died off screen before the game started. But she's there by herself, you know, trying to solve everything. We're playing as handsome detective who's a ghost, and then Misaka, who she's running around trying to find her friend, a girl in a black dress. And the entire time she's trying to figure this out, it turns out the girl in the black dress, not real at all. I don't think she was real. She was all made up, you know, this little black doll that she had, that she carried around. It's just none of it was real. And I was just like, damn on that. But yeah, the ending was quite fun, very fun. So we have to fight the final boss, who is Sakura. Sakura, I think that's how you say her name. Sakuya, Sakura. Hands down, it's gotta be a fun boss fight, but one of the easiest boss fights. Because I went in there with like the best film ever, right? So you start off at the bottom of this lighthouse, and you gotta go all the way up this lighthouse, and you fight this one guy, which is your father, 3 times in a row as you go up to this lighthouse, right? So you get up there, and you gotta fight the final boss, and there's like this epic, like, cool shot of the camera panning down, and she's just floating there being all badass, and you're just standing there with the camera, and I'm just like, alright, it's final boss time. And I just lock onto her and just kill her flat out with this like super mega, like, I think it was 3 fatal frame shots, boom, she was dead. Game over for the boss, just game over. I'm thinking, that was really fucking easy for a final boss. That was really fucking easy. And then I'll walk up to this piano, and they go, okay, now play the moon song. What do you mean, play the moon song? Play the moon song that you've been learning throughout this whole game. And if you mess up on that moon song, you have to fight the final boss. And every time you mess up, you have to fight that final boss again. Do you want to know how long it took me to do that final boss? Because I could not get past simple piano keys. Too many times. I think it took me roughly 8 times. 8 times to defeat the final boss. Because I kept fucking up on the damn piano. It was like, they give you 3 chances. And now the first time I did it, I was just like, oh shit, you know, I'm not being fast enough. The second time I did it, I kept messing up. The third time, like, I straight up missed, like, the first note completely, and I was like, fuck this shit, man, I fucked up. And I had to fight her, and then I died because I was so shocked I had to fight her again. And it just became a repeat of me trying to figure out this damn piano. Eventually I got it, though, and we got past it. I will say, that was a fun final boss. That was a nice twist when it came to the ending. That it was a piano that was my biggest adversary. Not the fucking ghost. Not the creepy atmosphere or anything like that. Because I'm gonna be honest, this game oozes the creepy atmosphere. I'm talking about creepy lighting, like rays of the moon just coming through the lights, because the moon's full as fuck. So there's a lot of light coming from the moon. Everything's dark and dusty, and you know, all you guys use a little flashlight in most of this room. Like, there's a few rooms that have their own unique lighting, like the mannequin hand room, as I like to call it, or what was it, room 203, that crazy psychotic bitch. Yeah, stay out of her room. She's got all these mannequin hands and shit. But yeah, she had fantastic lighting. The atmosphere is just creepy. The ghosts are all unique to the setting and everything. Like, they look creepy, like they're oozing black shit out their eyes, and they got black glowing eyes. The fighting combat in this compared to the third one was easy / harder. It was easy because you can lock on to them really well. And because you can lock on to them, you know, you get some good fatal frames. Especially you just wait for them to attack like you would do in any other game. You know, all the game mechanic fighting styles are all the same. You lock on, wait to the fatal frame, get you a good shot, game over. But this one also took a note out of Fatal Frame 1 and did a lot of fighting in close corridors. Very small, lenient hallways, very small L-shaped hallways. Like one of the boss fights that drove me crazy was this optional boss fight that I accidentally walked into because I went wandering. This is why I stopped wandering around this game, because I accidentally found this boss fight. This dude had this ability to throw shit. And I want to say it was your dad too, because he had the same ability as your dad. He was able to throw shit at you, and he'll be like through a fucking wall, and you have to stop it by taking a picture of him. You know, when you know the bar fills up with the camera, you have to take a picture of him, and that'll make the mask go away. Well, how the hell are you supposed to do that when you're in these tight ass hallways, and he's in a wall, and he does that maneuver, and you can't run away from the fucking mask? That's a cheap ass hit, and as soon as you get hit, that motherfucker comes out of nowhere with like this triple attack where he's coming at you, but because you're following him with the camera, he keeps like ghost jumping to the left or to the right, so you don't get his fucking picture. So you can't log on to him. And I will say the first game had that issue to a degree where some of the fights happen in small hallways. Not all of them. I think it's about majority of them happen in big open spaces and shit like that. The second one had that problem the most because a lot of those rooms in the villages were small. Third one also had that problem because the manor is really narrow hallways, but they had a lot of big open rooms as well. This one had a lot of tight-ass corridors, a lot of hallway fight scenes, and even still, when they gave you open space, there was still shit you could get caught on. Like, there was this one boss fight. This one pissed me off because of the fact that it felt so unfair at first, because this was one of those boss fights that you could tell the difficulty spiked the hell up. I'm talking about, I'm doing good, I'm doing great, everything's fine. I may have to do one boss fight one other time because I fucked up somewhere, didn't get that right frame, fucked up, died or some bullshit like that. No big deal. I get to this bitch 12 times. 12 times I had to fight her. 12 fucking times. And it's the boss fight in chapter 9. Where you're fighting that one shrine maiden and the two little bitches. Now, I won't call them two. I don't give a shit. They're little ghost girls. Okay, I don't give a shit. All right. What was funny is that throughout this whole game, I'm chasing Riku. I think it was Riku's little ghost vision she was seeing, and Misaka's little ghost children. I'm like, oh my god, these are so cute. But then I fight like the little girl in 203 are these ghost children. I'm like, fuck these children. They can go to hell. Like they're the little demons. Just go to hell, all you children. I hated them, and I really did, because it wasn't the main ghost that was the problem. It was the two little girls. See, they had this maneuver where they would, slowly come up to you, and right when you're about to get your fatal frame, they would, back up and disappear. And they were doing that because the other little ghost girl will come up behind you and get your ass. Now, that wouldn't be a problem, because we ended up having to do that fight scene, which took me 3 times to do, because that fucking maneuver sucks. When we fight them individually later on, I think in chapter 11, I want to say. I think it's chapter 11. But we got to fight them again. And again, it's another big open room. But that maneuver is such bullshit. But the reason why it pissed me off more in chapter 9 than it did in 11 is because, say, because you're fighting 3 ghosts at once. So you got that one little girl you're trying to get that fatal frame at, and then her little shit-ass sister comes up, grabs you, you're distracted, so you have to get off, get her off of you, so you push back, and then as soon as you turn around, the main shrine bitch comes out of nowhere, and then just grabs you by the throat. And then as soon as you get done with that, you have another one of those little asshole girls just come up and just grab you by the arm. That's literally like a triple attack, all within like 30 seconds, and you just instantly die. And it's like, if you got that RNG, it fucking sucked. And I got that a lot of the time. That's why I had to redo the boss fight a few times, because I got that fucking RNG where one of the girls would grab me from below, the big shrine maiden bitch would come choke me out, and then the third one would just like push me over and it was game over. And it was aggravating the hell out of me because I would like try to back up, and there was like this one corner where I would get hung up on like the ruins of the building, and I would get stuck in this corner, and as soon as I would go to walk away, that fucking triple track would hit me, and I was getting pissed as fuck. Like, y'all didn't see it, but I was. Eventually, I had to calm down, take 5, come back to it, and eventually I focused all my attention on the little girls and just moving in a fucking circle backwards. I'm not even joking. I had to come up with this whole scheme of how to defeat these little girls. 'Cause I was like, if I can get these bitches out the way, I can handle the Shrine Maiden. And what did we fucking do? I got the little bitches out the way, and the Shrine Maiden was easy. And then I had to fight them again in chapter 11. I was just like, fuck these little girls. I hate them. I did. Oh my god, and then they played me so well. I defeat them, right? I'm just like, done deal. Let's go. Take one step. As soon as I took a step, they both returned for round 2. And I was just like, oh my god, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So I had to go fight round 2 with these bitches. But yeah, other than that fight, I didn't really have an issue with the game. I thought it was fun. It was challenging. It was great. The fucking scares were amazing. Like, there was this one. There's 2 scares actually that stand out to me. These are my 2 scares. So, one of the scares was I was walking down a hallway playing the handsome detective, and then I'm following this nurse ghost. But the nurse ghost goes left, and my stupid ass is like, well, I want to see what's going on the door to the right. So I move to the right, open this door. This bitch comes out of nowhere, hangs down off the doorway, just flops there, and just surprises me. So I'll pull out my camera out, take a picture, and it scares the shit out of me, by the way. It does, like, truly. I was not expecting it. I opened the door, fucking jump scare, and I'm just like, ah! And, standing there, I'm looking at the hallway, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go follow the nurse. I'm gonna go follow the nice nurse, because she's beautiful and all that. I walked the hell off. But what I found funny about that was, it was not like a spirit you could take a picture of. It wasn't the start of a boss fight. It was just a random jump scare they threw in just to make you shit yourself. Loved it. And then the next one, this was like a subtle scare. This one was a subtle scare, but it set the tone for the rest of the time I dealt with this fucking wheelchair. So one of the ghosts, and this also ties into the coolest ghost. The coolest ghost in this game is not only the hanging woman, because this was a tie between the hanging woman and this ghost. This ghost was a patient in a hospital who pushed around this other girl who was in a red wheelchair. And at one point in the game, you gotta go into the room where they had like a wake for the girl. And we had this mannequin, the wheelchair, and the coffin all in this room. So I'll walk into this room, and I'm nonchalantly pull out the camera to do the whole obvious, look around thing. I look at the mannequin's facing one way. I pull out the camera, and I just see the body just move so suddenly. So I, move the camera over, and she's staring at me. And I'm like, what? I'm starting to question, is like, was she always looking at me when I walked in? Because I didn't like analyze the mannequin as soon as I walked in. I looked at the room and went, this room is terrifying. And then took 2 steps out and then pulled out the camera. So I was just like, was that mannequin looking at me? Has she always been looking at me? And then as soon as I put the camera down, she's looking back in the normal direction, and it scared the hell out of me. And that fucking wheelchair came back with a vengeance. And another point, I think in chapter 10, when you're playing the handsome detective, I went down this hallway, grabbed something, turned around, and I was mid-conversation, just like, alright, now I need to go down this way, da-da-da-da, but I can't turn the camera to face the doors. So I ended up running into something, and then I realized what I run into, and it was that fucking damn ass red wheelchair, and it scared the hell out of me. I still have PTSD flashbacks from the Changeling. It's rather obvious I do. Even though I'm almost fucking 30, and that movie still scares the hell out of me. But yeah, hands down, fantastic game. Now, this game also has the lowest amount of ghosts, by the way. This one only has 14 ghosts. 14 fucking ghosts. So, I will say there was a few repeated boss fights, but I wasn't complaining. I was having a ball. Like as soon as like a dickhead doctor show up, I was like, aha, the bitch returns, and I was bringing out the camera. Like, it was a great game, great time all the way around. Loved it 100%. Highly recommend this one. This one was a treat, and I hope when they do the remake, they take the same care as they did in this one if they do the other three. I hope they do the same way they did 4, because 4 was just, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I wonder if they actually have a physical copy, because I wouldn't mind having a physical copy of this game. I got mine digitally, so I wonder if there is a digital copy. And funny enough, I found out about this game I think a week after it came out, because I was scrolling on Facebook and I followed a Fatal Frame page, and they haven't posted in a while, but the first post I saw from them in a good minute, they were talking about this game coming out. I was like, oh my god, so they nonchalantly slid another Fatal Frame remake underneath our noses yet again. And I say that because of the 5th game, which, speaking of, might as well go into the 5th game, because nothing else happens in the plot. You know, we had the final boss fight in the lighthouse. We end up saving the day. Riku gets her memory back. Everybody, if you defeat it on a nightmare difficulty or hard difficulty, one of the two, everybody gets a happy ending. Except Rukia, who ends up still having to say goodbye to her father, and our poor handsome detective still is dead, but he saved the day by putting the mask on her face, and everyone ends up going to heaven. And we had the beautiful little light ceremony like we have in all the games. Like, seriously, all 3 of the games up until this point all ended with beautiful lights leaving the haunted area. I will say the second one had the best one, though, because of the butterflies. I'm not gonna lie. But let's go ahead and move on to Fatal Frame 5. Now, this one came out in 2014. So that one's actually, the fourth game came out in 2008. So that was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So at this point it was 6 years. And from 2008 to 2005, that's only 3 years from each game. But yeah, 2014, we get the 5th game in the franchise. And this one's a bit different. We get this one on the Wii U system, which wasn't a really popular system at the time, but they used the camera system the best when it came to the Wii U system. And I mean that because you could be playing the game, you know, on the TV or whatever, and you gotta take a picture. So you would use the pad to take the picture. And I was just like, that's fucking badass. Like, that is cool as shit. That is really cool. And again, our buddy Kushia, he's the reason they chose the Wii U system. Again, he loved the Wii, so he loved the Wii U system. So it's because of him we have it on the Wii U system. But again, why did they wait so long to let us have it? This one's also kind of unique because this one was only released in America in digital format. We don't have a physical copy of this one. You can't get a physical copy of this one unless you're willing to shell out an arm and a leg for a foreign copy. You can't get a physical copy. But this one, unfortunately, I will say the atmosphere, it's not the strongest. Like, I will say the strongest atmosphere when it comes to all 5 of these games, I'm going to have to go with Crimson Butterfly because of the red. The red stands out the most between all 5 of these games. Like, don't get me wrong, the pretty blues for the 3rd one, the natural dark lighting from the 1st one was pretty good. The natural bluish moonlight, it's gorgeous as hell in the 4th game. But that red light really just sets a tone for the 2nd game. This 5th one, not so much. Like I said, it's very dark, very bland, you know, very washed out colors. Because again, everything's wet. Everything's super wet. You're wet as a character. You're fucking, you have a wetness meter. That was a new mechanic they added to this game. And again, they kept the same third-person over-the-shoulder camera with very select few moments of third-person perspective cameras. Now, I will say the sprint button in this game is hella good. The graphics, just like the fourth game, are hella good. It looks great. And this is me talking more about the remake that came out in 2001. Now, the 2014 graphic for the Wii, still not that bad. Still really good. That's why they chose the Wii U system and a lot of water, because they really want to show off the reflection and what the system can do. And don't get me wrong, it looks nice. It looks really good. But the ghosts are pretty generic. You know, they have their own unique style. But there's 31 ghosts. This game has 31 ghosts. The most amount of ghosts you can fight in all these games. Because, you know, Fatal Frame 4 is at 14 ghosts being the lowest. 31 ghosts, though, seems ridiculous, especially compared to the other games, which only had like 23, 24, even 21 ghosts. You know, actually, no, I think it was, why am I at? One was 23, one was 25, and the other one was 15. So 31 ghosts. That's a lot of fucking ghosts. And here's the fucked up part about that. Because the ghosts don't look too overly different, a lot of the ghosts just, they kind of merge in together. Yeah, there's 31 of them, but I couldn't tell you right off the bat certain ghosts without looking at fine details. Like, there's a couple of shrine maidens that all look the same. There's a fucking couple of other characters that kind of all look the same when it comes to design-wise. Again, it's just hard to see. Like, a lot of these other ghosts that you fight, they're unique in the aspect of how they, you know, killed themselves. Because, unfortunately, this one also has a message behind this one. This one's, I'm trying to choose my words carefully because I do not want to be fucking raked across the coal by YouTube over here. But this whole inspiration behind this particular this game is the Suicide Forest from Japan. So all these characters have, you know, killed themselves, unfortunately. And some of them, you know, jumped off cliffs. Some of them took swords to the throat. Some of them did other things. But the point is, those ghosts are like far and few in between. You'll fight more like the Shrine Maidens or the fucking Wanderer guy with the fucking box on his back and he's like charging at you and shit. Like, he looks like he belongs in Majora's Mask from Zelda. Yeah, that guy though, that guy. You fight him tons. You fight a lot of these other people tons, like, but the unique ones, you might fight them one or two times, and then they kind of go in the back of your mind. There's also a couple of companion pieces that they did, like you have from Crimson Butterfly. There's a couple of companion moments, especially in the beginning of the game, about halfway through. There's several moments. It's not like in the second game where you have to protect them and watch over them. They're more like a comfort in some aspects. Like in the first couple of chapters, you got someone kind of walking with you, going, all right, this is how you use the camera now, and this is what you got to do. So you know, it's very comforting to have this person. Now when you get like more into the houses and shit, because this one had like a ton of chapters. Like I said, the first game was kind of short, only had about 4 chapters. The second game, I think, had maybe about 10, probably some less chapters, 10 to less. The third game had several chapters, I think over 10. I know the fourth game had 12 chapters into it. This one had a shit ton of fucking chapters. I want to say it was at least 15, 16. And plus an extra DLC hidden chapter that you had to get after beating the game on a certain difficulty. Yeah, that was fun. There's a DLC chapter, or not DLC, but an extra bonus content chapter from a girl that you play as in Dead or Alive. And she too ends up going to this mountain and searching for a character that somebody else was supposed to be looking for. Which, fun fact, it's fucking Miku from the first game and the third game. She makes a return here. And her daughter is actually the main character that you play as in one of these in this game. And oh my god, the writing. I question the writing on this one. I'm not gonna lie, I question the writing on this one. I'll get there in a minute. Let me get done talking about some of these other fun things. Besides the extra companions, and the more it goes, we still have the reach out mechanic from the fourth game. It's not overly bad, but it gets a little annoying by the end when literally everything you pick up has a fucking ghost attached to it. Everything, like there's nothing you can look at and go, maybe a ghost, may not. No, everyone at the end is just like, nope, that's got a ghost. No, that's definitely a ghost. Another cool mechanic they added to this, and this is the main character's power. She has the power of the fatal glance, so it means after she kills a ghost, she can touch the ghost spirit and then, see their final moment, see, what they went through. And that's a cool concept, and that's a pretty badass idea. The problem is, and I know other people had this issue as well, some of the ghosts, when they had their fatal glances moments, they're out of bounds. You can't get to them because you done hit them with your camera shot, so they stepped out of bounds or through a wall, and you can't get it. Another big problem I had with the game was, and I remember this too. It's been a couple of years since I played the game, but I remember this. There was a section in this game where I had to take a picture of something outside behind one of these houses, and I remember spending over 40 minutes trying to get this picture. And I even looked it up. I'm like, am I in the right spot, the right location? And they're like, yeah, no, this is all the correct things. You just had to hit it at a certain fucking angle, at a certain fucking width away from this area. And if you weren't at that precise look, like far enough away, you were not getting this image. I spent over 40 minutes trying my damnness to find this angle. I actually had to quit the podcast, the stream that day, and come back and pick it up the next day because I still couldn't get that angle. And I eventually got the angle after being frustrated as hell for almost an hour trying to get this one stupid ass angle just so I could continue on with the plot of the story. That shit pissed me off. I'm not gonna lie. The final boss, there's a lot of shit about this game that pissed me off. Now, don't get me wrong. I know it sounds like I'm chewing the hell out of this game. I still had a good time with it. It was just, I wouldn't say this is a good Fatal Frame game to start off with. If you were gonna pick one that is released here in America, that you can get your hands on for a good price, Fatal Frame 4. Fatal Frame 4. If you can get your hands on Fatal Frame 1, 2, or 3, the PS2 or the PS3 collection, be my guest. But not the fifth game. Not the fifth game. Even though each title can be a standalone game, not the fifth game. There's too many problems with this one. Not only, do you have the problem with the fatal glances, and you have the problem with the whole camera thing. This game is just tremendously bloated. Like I said in the beginning of this podcast, you spend time going up and down this fucking mountain and a lot of backtracking. Thank God your character actually has a crazy ass sprint. I'm not gonna lie, her sprint looks like straight up out of an anime. I'm not even gonna lie. Like just straight up, just like it's ridiculous. Except when she gets into water. As soon as she gets into water, she moves at a snail's pace for a minute. Like, she does not like to run. When she does, she is like a fish out of water trying to run through this water. And it is a struggle. It's a struggle. Because on top of that, while you're running in this water, you have the wetness meter. Now, the wetness meter is a give or take thing. Apparently, if you're wet, your attack is stronger, but your defense is down. And the only way to dry off is you either stand underneath the dry place for an abnormally long ass time. Like I'm talking about, at one point, I ran out of fire emblems, which is the second way you could dry off. And they're very scarce in this game. But I remember, on stream, I was wet, so I was like, alright, let me dry off before we continue on down this road. So in case there's like a boss or something. Because they have been known to be on the tram, and a fucking ghost appears and you gotta fight a ghost on a moving tram. So I was like, I'm gonna dry off. So I put my character down, put the controller down, run up to the bathroom, and go get some water. Chit chat with my roommate for like about like 2 or 3 minutes about the game and how the stream was going. Come back, sit down. She's not even halfway done drying off yet, and I was gone for at least 5 minutes. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, I was gone for at least 3 to 5 minutes. So I'm like, what the hell? And normally long, so I was like, fuck it, I'll take my chances and keep on going. But yeah, overall, I was not a big fan of that mechanic. Oh shit, what the hell was I trying to write here? Oh, no marketing. Yeah, there was no marketing for this game. So I was looking at my notes like, what the hell was I trying to write? Apparently, I squished in no marketing together. Yeah, there was no marketing for this game. When this game first came out, you want to know how I found out about this game? The Facebook group for Fatal Frame. They literally dropped it, I think 3 days before the game officially came out. They're like, oh my god, the new Fatal Frame game is digital copy only and blah blah blah. Here's some screenshots. And I was like, oh damn, I didn't even realize they were making a Fatal Frame remake game. I did not even realize that, but whoop, there we are. We got it, digital copy. I played it. It ain't. Just literally, that's the best way. Without trashing or dogging on it, I can just say just really because oh my god, the writing on this one's very questionable. So let me get through the plot. So the plot is it's based on of course it's based on the Suicide Forest, but it's on a fictitious mountain, and this mountain is known to have shrine maidens who have the ability of the fatal glance, where it's they look at you, they touch you, they feel and sense all your your emotions, your feels, what you've been through. They understand, basically help you come to peace. And the reason why they do that, and the reason why you're coming to this mountain, is because you come here to kill yourself. Like, straight up, if you can't deal with it, if it's too rough, if life is just too much, you come in there, they peacefully put you at mines, and then you do whatever you want on this mountain, and that's how you go. And then, your spirit is supposed to go off in peace. And these shrine maidens are picked to be pillars to hold back what they call the black water. And the black water, just like the Hell's Gates or the Abyss, is the fine line between our world and the underworld. And this black water needs to be pushed back by the pillars. And now these pillars are special, unique shrine maidens who are chosen to be put in a black box in this black water. In the black water, like literally put in the box with the black water, and they put the box in the black water. A lot of black water right there. But while they're in there, they're supposed to suffer and feel the emotions that everybody else felt, the scaredness, the anger. They're supposed to be strong enough to deal with it, and that torture is what keeps the black waters at bay and keeps the mountain at ease. Well, unfortunately, the ritual fucked up. The ritual fucked up. The pillar ritual fucked up. And this case, yet again, the shrine maiden was picked, and she ended up falling in love with a guy who came to the mountain and took her picture with the camera obscura. His name was Osio, and she fell in love with him. And because she fell in love basically on the same day she fell in love, her other shrine maiden sisters were killed by this man who came up to the mountain to kill himself, but he was so freaked out by the shrine maidens because of their powers that he killed them and then killed himself. So she was dealing with the fact that she would never see this guy that she's madly in love with ever again. The fact that her shrine maiden sisters just got killed. So this bag of emotions were not a good mixed bag, and thus was not strong enough to hold the pillars up, thus breaking and causing the black waters to overflow. And this happened before, apparently. This happened once before, and 7 of the Shrine Maidens sacrificed themselves to hold back the black water and stop this. But unfortunately, this time when it happened, there was no 7 beautiful women to stop this bullshit, and it just happened. So now the spirits who killed themselves are now forever stuck reliving the death over and over again, stuck there as ghosts. The mountain's no longer sacred. Everything just fucking sucks. And this is where the writing really takes a tank. So, Miku from the first game, from the third game, the one who lost her brother, the one who dealt with the grief of her brother, she's back in this game because I don't know how to say this. She is so in love with her brother, so in love with her dead ghostly brother, she gets into a ghost marriage ceremony with her brother so they can forever be together. And what makes this more fucked up is her ghost brother impregnated her. Yeah, you heard me. They brought incest into this game. I don't know why. I want to say maybe their train of thought was the process of grief, because this does happen from time to time. Not the incest loving marrying ghost brother sister thing. No, nothing like that. I'm talking about the repeatingness of grief, where you would think that, after a couple of years, you will be fine, you'll be well, you've moved past it, but like a ghost, it comes back and gets you. It could be a random Tuesday. It could be a random fucking Tuesday at 9 o'clock at night. Mind your own business, and suddenly that pain will hit you. If something will trigger it, it could be, you smell something, you heard something. It's just the day. It could be the fucking time of day. It will hit you hard and make you miss that person. And make you just feel that sadness and overwhelmingness again. This is why you have, the pillars you can lean on. And I can get that. But the fact that she had a daughter that she abandoned to go to the mountain to kill herself to be with her brother. Everything she wrote and worked for in the third game to help her deal with her grief, they kind of forgot about that shit. Like how they even wrote out the fact that she worked together with Ray and everybody, with Kay and oh my god, like they completely wrote them out, like in her journals and diary entries. She's just like, oh, I was all alone. Hell, she even said that in a couple of her monologues. Is, oh, I was so alone. All I had was my brother, and then he was gone. It's like, so what was that chick in the third game? Well, your roommate, your BFF, the bitch you were with. Would she mean nothing to you now? Like, they completely forgot about that. I guess they just assumed we would forget about that, being that game came out like 2005. This one came out in 2014. So this is at least a couple of years. So they're probably hoping maybe they'll forget about this. But I remembered. Petrus Farms remembers. The member berries remember. Okay. So no. A lot of people were kind of off put by that, and how I was off put by that, even without knowing that information. When I played the game, when I found out there were incest siblings, I was just left there scratching my head like, what the fuck did I just do? How is this possible? What the hell just happened? But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the incest plot line. I don't quite understand the reasoning to backtrack on a character. Again, maybe they were just trying to hit that moment of, the repeatingness of grief. But the fact that you stepped her so far back to the point that she's now obsessed with her brother, going to kill herself to be with her brother, after getting ghost married to her brother and having a child by her brother. It's kind of fucked up, bro. That's kind of fucked up. So her beautiful daughter, who is half human, half ghost, has to go through this mountain to go find her mom. And you also play as, oh god, what is his name? Osio. Oh, Asu was the name of the guy the Shrine Maid was in love with. Osio is, Oh, no, wait. Could be the other way around. Fuck. It's been a minute since I played this game, so I was going mainly off of some of my gameplay footage and shit. But, yeah, you play, no, Osio's the name of the final boss. God damn it, how did I forget about that? Oh god, what's the name of the main characters? I know I wrote this down somewhere. That goes for my notes real quick. Hang on, take a pause real quick. You got, Yuri, Ren, and Miyu, who is, Miku's daughter. So, Ren is one of the guy characters you play in this game. He is a photographer with the spirit camera, and he is involved because his ancestor, or he's related to Aso, who was the love interest for our shrine maiden. And Yuri is the descent of one of the shrine maidens, and Miyu is there for her mother. So, Miku goes up to the mountain to go, in her life so she can be with her brother. So her daughter follows her, and her daughter originally went up there not only to go after her mom, is the fact that she's like this private detective, so she's looking into some cases for these missing girls who keep going up to the mountain and disappearing. So she's going up there to find somebody who went missing. This is where that chick from Dead or Alive comes in at, near the that secret chapter at the end of the game. Ren, he's there because I think he's friends with Miyu. Is either he's friends or his assistant is friends with her, and he's staying. He's staying around. Yuri owns a antique shop where all the shenanigans go down because if you think about it, there's also a little dual location, just like in the third game where we had the Manor of Sleep and then the apartment building. We had the antique shop and then the fucking mountain. We don't spend enough time in the antique shop though, but there are some great moments in the antique shop. Like there's this really nice night where Ren's sitting there watching security cameras and the girls are all asleep. And as he's going through, you see ghosts trying to attack in the antique shop and everything. And it's really creepy, really well done, really well built up. And I loved it. I fucking loved it. I thought that was great. That was one of my favorite chapters in the game. But, yeah, so they all three have a reason to go to this mountain. And each one ends up kind of having their own like epiphany as they're going through. Ren, he's got to make the decision whether or not to break up with I think two girls, because if I remember correctly, there's this entire storyline with him where when he was a kid, he was up in the mountains and befriended a girl who's going, like a little girl who was supposed to be one of the pillars. She was chosen to be one of the pillars, and they made a marriage bound or something. And then of course he looks like the main chick, Osia, looks like her lover. So he's like got to choose which one do you go with. Do you break up with one or you break up with two? Like who do you break up with in the afterlife? Because you can only marry one. Miyu, of course, she spent the entire time trying to find her mother and, save her from the afterlife and figure out her entire incest problem. Yuri, she's got to deal with saving everybody from all this bullshit. So she ends up having to fight the final boss, I do believe. And Osia being the final boss, she was complicated. Because, like I said, you fight her above water and you fight her underneath the water. And if you kill her too early, you can get the bad ending by mistake. Luckily, though, unlike some of the other games when it comes to the endings, you can get all the endings within one chapter. Unfortunately, when it comes to like Fatal Frame 1, 2, 3, and 4, if you don't replay, to get like on Nightmare difficulty to get certain endings, you have to pick up certain items or read certain things. And the first 2 games for sure did this, where if you didn't have certain things or did certain things, you didn't get certain endings. This game, however, has it where it's all in one chapter, where those had it like spread out through a couple of, like, you missed something in chapter 5, well, you got to go back to chapter 5 to get it so you can get that ending. Then you have to replay all the way up to chapter 5 from 5 all the way to the end to get that ending. So I do give it credit that at least you can get all the endings within one chapter. But I did find that boss fight rather fucking ridiculous. Because again, everybody, like all 3 of these characters are all having their own definitive endings, which makes the game even fucking longer. So it's just like, all right, I'm tired at this point. I just want I want everyone to have a happy ending. I had to get a walkthrough to walk me through these damn endings. But yeah, if you succeed though, you get all the good endings. Ren's fine. He moves on. He ends up breaking up with both the ghost girls. Miyu and her mother end up surviving, and they walk away together at the sunset. And Yuri, of course, she ends up saving the day and bringing peace to everybody. But yeah, overall, it's a very bloated, long game. It's still fun. It's got its moments. I had a good time, especially walking around the forest. There's a couple of moments inside the building I had a good time in. They did bring in back some other mechanics from the other games, such as the way the camera sound is, the audio sound, again, the atmosphere. It's alright. It's alright. It's not the creepiest. It's not the best. It's got some decent sound to it, but it's not too bad. Graphics are pretty good. They brought back the companion buddy thing. It's mainly when you play Ren. He's got a little assistant with him that goes with him everywhere. And of course, in the first couple of chapters, you're playing, I think it's Yuri. I think you're playing Yuri in that chapter. It's either Yuri or Miyu. One of them two, you got companion buddy. It's really nice. Again, I think it's with Ren mainly. You have to spend a lot of time trying to protect his assistant, but other than that, there's really not much of a difference between the 2 companion pieces, to be honest. But yeah, I thought it was not that bad. My favorite, coolest ghost out of all the ghosts I saw, the one that always stuck out to me was the tall woman. She was the woman during that fun chapter I talked about and at the antique shop. And I'm talking about when they call her a tall woman, they mean tall woman. She's like really tall. She's like Lady Demetrius tall. White gown, white hat, fucking creepy ass face. Like, it's disturbing. The ghost designs for these games, they weren't too overly unique. A lot of them were just oozing with wetness. Just a lot of wetness. So yeah, overall, this game's I'm trying to find some nice stuff. Cause I know I keep chewing the hell out of this game because it's just the bloatiness. It's just the bloatiness to this game. It really is. The 31 ghosts, the backtracking up the mountain, the fucking forever drying off mechanics, the fact there's no ambers, the multiple boss fights. Like, it got a little repetitive and a little tiring after a while. So by the time I ended the game, I was just like, you know what? I'm fine with just this ending. I don't want to replay it at this moment. Now that I've done replay 4, I may hop on the stream at some point and play Made in Blackwater again. I don't know. I really don't, because just the mixed reviews of this game. I know it's not a lot of people's favorite. But I will say the 5th one does have one thing that the other ones really don't, and that's the jiggle mechanics. So they got jiggle mechanics, everybody. But to rank all 5 of these games, it's really hard because it's kind of unfair to ask me, because again, I only played 4 and 5, and I've watched playthroughs of 1 through 3, and I only played 20 minutes of 1. So it's kind of hard to determine which ones I like the best, but from what I've gathered from all the media I gathered from all 5 of these games, I have to say 4 It's my favorite because I got to play that one. I got to experience it for what it was supposed to be. I had a blast with the mechanics. I had a blast with the ghosts and the writing and the story and the plot twist. It was fun. Loved it. The fourth one, hands down, gotta be one of my favorites. And then it'll be Crimson Butterfly, because that one had a unique story. I like twisting that one. I like the colorness. I like the openness of the village and everything. Usually I don't like it in horror movies when we get, because especially if we start off in like in a haunted mansion and then we like spread out to a bigger location, you kind of take away some of that fear, especially when you go from inside of a building to outside. You ruin a lot of that tension building, because if you're trapped inside of a building, you're trapped inside of a building. You can't get out. And a forest, however, you can at least run into a direction. Now, if it's the direction you want to go, probably not. But at least it's the direction you can run. But they did a fine-ass job making it feel small and isolated. I gotta give it the Fatal Frame 2. Fatal Frame 1, it's gotta be the next one, because just from the well-built tension and build up to these ghosts and just the claustrophobicness of some of the fighting scenes and just how difficult some of the ghosts were, I like it. I thought it was good. I thought the sound effects, a little cheesy, overdone, because we've heard them multiple times, like how we could use them with any editing software now. But back then, visionary. That was genius. The next one would have to be 3, because 3 had a unique premise to it. 3 had a brutal story to it. 3 was really good. It was really fun. I wasn't as scared as watching it as I was watching like the first or second playthrough. Like those two, when I was watching those playthroughs, had me a little chill in the air, a little tension on my back, shit like that. The third one, I don't know if I was just numb to it at this point or whatnot, but I was watching the third one. I was more into it with the story. Voice acting, though, they just would not have spoken to a tin can. Probably would have really done it more justice, to be honest. But I liked it. I thought it was good. And then, of course, coming in last place is the 5th game. It's mainly because it's bloated. It's a lot of bloatiness and a lot of backtracking. And did I mention the bloatiness of this game? Just how long and agonizing this game was. Now, don't get me wrong. These games are not bad. None of these games are bad to a degree. Like, I wouldn't, even with how bloated the 5th game is, I still recommend you playing this game, because it is still fun. It's still fun. Just, you're going to be there for a minute. I'm not going to lie. But that's how I rank at least those 5 games. And again, it's kind of unfair to ask me about my ranking, because I can't give a full conclusion, because I haven't actually sat down and played the other 3. Now, hopefully one day I can, and then I can give y'all a proper review on all 3 of those games, and a proper ranking on it. But let's go off onto the other mediums before we wrap up the podcast. But like I said earlier, we had this spin-off game called Spirit Camera, Spirit Camera, The Curse of Mormor, and Memor, or Mormor, is like Memoir, or is it MOM? Shit, when you can't read your own handwriting again. But Spirit Camera, it's a 3DS game. It's kind of a reality meets gaming type of game where you use real world stuff like on your phone. Like, again, it's like with the, what do they call it? A something? Not like VR, but like actual reality. I know Five Nights at Freddy's did it with their little phone game they had. But this one, synopsis of this one is, Maya helps the player out after you get handed a book. It's called like the Purple Diary or something like that. And she is scared of the woman in black, and there is a ritual, another dark ritual, that ends up failing. The Shinto ritual. And basically it requires the maiden's eyes and mouth to be sewn up so she could be used as a vessel for the spirits with no earthly attachment. The plot twist is the chick helping you out throughout this entire game, she is part of that woman in black spirit who had attachments to this world, so their spirits end up breaking into two and both being stuck here. And this is why you show up to end the curse and save everybody else. Then you have the manga. or manga, however you want to pronounce it. I pronounce it both ways some days. It's called The Shadow Priestess, though, and that was also released in 2014. I've read quite a few chapters of it. I haven't finished it. I would love to finish it and give y'all a actual like full breakdown of this if y'all are interested. Um, Again, I just didn't have time to sit down and read. I think it was like 52 fucking chapters or something, like 52 books and 20 chapters apiece. I didn't have time to sit down and read all of it. I think I got about halfway through. But what I read of it was pretty good, pretty solid. I will say I did look up someone talk about this, which is really hard because apparently a lot of people don't talk about Shadow Priestess. But he said it's pretty good, decent until about halfway through because it's like around chapter 28. Okay, so time out. Let me back up and explain. The premise of Dark Priestess is a group of kids all go to this elementary school because they got to do a research paper on a historical building that's not found on the internet, and a kid who is into spirit photography took a picture at the school, and one of them looks like a ghost of a girl who disappeared that's friends with the main character we end up following throughout this whole story as we were reading it. So they got to go there, and they have to find 12 sorry, I got tongue-tied there. They have to find 12 clues to solve the mystery of this whole thing. And it's not I think it's like the last 5 chapters, they end up finding 8 of them all in one room. I think it's like the last like 3 or 4 chapters, they conveniently find like 8 of the clues all in one room because they spent the other chapters getting 1 or 2 clues each. And apparently this book is kind of fast-paced in a way. But I'm not surprised being manga. It's very fast-paced. It's extremely, because, you know, there's 15 characters, okay? There's 15 characters, so, and they're all broken up into little groups. So once we get done with one group, we switch to another group to see what's going on. It's kind of like Corpse Party, that anime, and that fun game. Maybe one day I'll play that and talk about Corpse Party, because that's just a fun game. But like Corpse Party, the anime, you end up going from one group to the next group to the next group to see what everybody's doing, and each group is dealing with their own bullshit. So I'm fine with that kind of pacing, especially when it comes to reading it. I'm fine with it. Hopefully it's done well. Hopefully no character gets overshadowed by anything. Apparently a couple of characters do end up dying to dwindle out the amount of characters, but it's still too much, the guy said. So, again, I can't make a full review on it, but for what I read of it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I like the setup. They have the camera. They got the good premise. They have an understanding that our main character, she's a descendant from a high priestess, another shrine maiden. I'm sure another dark ritual is involved. There's always a dark ritual. But, yeah, it felt like Fatal Frame. From what I read, I felt a lot of connection from the games in the series as I was reading it. It felt really good. The writing felt really good. I definitely got to sit down and read it all. But, yeah, overall, I think definitely check it out. I found it digitally. I had to ask Reddit to point me in the right direction so I could read it. But, yeah, there's a website that actually has it. And I didn't write down the name of the website, but yeah, ask Google. Google could help you out on that. And then, of course, we got the one that shocked me the most out of all the media that I found when it came to this game franchise is the movie Fatal Frame: Curse Affecting Only Girls. Okay, so I like this movie, but I wanted more from this movie, and this was like that key point of why it took me so long to decide whether or not to do this as its own individual podcast or not. And it's mainly because it's not that scary. Let me explain. So this entire movie, it feels like Fatal Frame. It has the atmosphere of Fatal Frame. We're in an isolated location. We're at an all-girl Catholic school in Japan, And we have ghosts. We have a ghost that is haunting the school. And we also have vague references to curses, especially this one curse that is affecting the whole school. Which, of course, is the curse that's affecting only girls. But why I don't say, why I won't review it on the podcast, unless y'all really want me to and talk about it, I can do maybe a better comparison. But the reason why is the fact that, for one, it's not that scary, but two, it lacked the jump scareness of a lot of ghosts. There was only like one ghost hanging around. And the fact that the camera obscura, the main character of the movie doesn't even have it. Apparently, it's another character's son who has the camera, and he only uses it from a couple of scenes. So we really don't get to actually see the camera all too terribly much. There's like 3 or 4 different versions. We actually get to see the cool one from 4 in the casing, by the way. Which I like the scene where we actually get to see the camera, like all the cameras, all the beautiful cameras. And yeah, the whole backstory behind it is a woman named Mary. Her family owned a photography shop that took pictures for girls who were in a lesbian relationship. And at the time when she and her family owned the shop, it was taboo for women to like women. So these girls would come here and get their pictures taken by these folks, and they would do the love charm, and they would kiss the picture of their loved one at midnight, and thus tying them and bonding them together for all of eternity. And then they would go and kill themselves. And there was a lake that they would do it, together forever. Hopefully even in the afterlife we would be together. But they would go and they would do that. And one of the girls who came here and did the charm and did the thing agreed to do it to the end with her girlfriend until the end came. The girlfriend jumped into the ravine because they took the lake and dried it up, made it into a ravine. But this one girl jumped to the ravine, the other girl didn't, and because this happened, she laid a curse on the girlfriend, saying that I will forever haunt you. I will forever get your ass. So because of this, terrible, terrible things happen. Let me explain. So Misha is in love with a girl named Aya, and Aya has a nightmare of a girl floating in the water saying, "Free me from this curse." So because she thinks now she's cursed, she locks herself in a room and doesn't come out. And all these girls are getting really worried because she's a really popular girl, a really great singer. Like, they make an emphasis on the fact that she's a really, really good singer. And after all that happens, and then she's acting super weird, a picture of Aya, and air quotes around that, and I'll explain that in a bit, starts floating around, and these girls are so entranced by it that they keep finding themselves kissing it at midnight. Now, after that ends up happening, these girls slowly start disappearing one by one, and so eventually, about halfway through the movie, their bodies start coming up. So you think, oh my God, they're going underneath the spell of this curse. This curse is getting out of hand. What has Aya done to put this curse on her? What has Aya done to bring this curse upon us? Because it's like her ghost haunting the school. At one point, there's a scene where the girls are all in the auditorium room, and the ghost appears, and all the girls just collapse. Okay, not all of them, but 99% of them collapse. So yeah, this ghost is really fucking some shit up. So they all blame Aya, and that is when Misha ends up straight up just, it's not Aya, let me prove it to you, and kisses Aya right there in front of all these girls, letting everybody know, I like Aya, she's cool. Aya then pulls her, at some point in the movie, pulls her aside and explains to her that this ghost that's walking around is not her. 100% it's not her. That picture is not her. It looks like her, but it's not her. Here's the plot twist for the movie. So because they don't know what this ghost wants, Misha takes it upon herself to afflict the curse upon herself so they can figure out where these girls are going to end up dying. So they end up tying little ribbons to each other. She does the curse, they go to sleep, and she starts sleepwalking to this area. As she's going to this area, they end up getting separated by, magical powerful forces. They end up getting separated. And while they're separated, there's been this character throughout this movie. He's the brother to one of the nun sisters. Like nun sister teachers. I don't know what they're called. I can't think of what they're called actually. I know they're not Mother Superior, because that's the head nun. But the little nun woman, she has a brother who kind of not all there. He's got some problems, and his whole plot development is the fact that he's not all there because he's the one that found a body in this ravine. And let me explain a little bit more. So, to back up a little bit, because we don't find this out till like the very fucking end of the movie. So remember those two lesbian girls I told you about, who one killed herself, the other one stood behind and was forever cursed? She's the head nun. She's the Mother Superior. And she admits to marry the woman who owns the photography shop. She was haunted by her lover. It drove her crazy. She couldn't bear another lover, because every time she got another lover, it pissed the ghost girl off. So that's why she became a nun. That's why she became a superior. And it got to the point that to end this curse, she decided to give her a companion. And this is where Aya comes in at. Aya, turns out, is a twin. And they were adopted by the school because one of them was supposed to be chosen to be a sacrifice to this ghost girl, so it would appease the spirit, so Mother Superior could be at rest, so she can no longer be haunted by her ex-lover. Yeah. Good plan, right? Good plan, right? So Aya's twin sister Maya, creative names, but Maya says, "Let me do this. I was born first." So, without even hesitation, the fucking Mother Superior just picks her up and throws her into the water, and she drowns, while Aya stood there and watched and tried to save her, but couldn't because Mother Superior stopped her. And she blamed herself because, being a young child, she kind of blocked a lot of this out. And unfortunately, because Maya died, it kind of took the place of Mother Superior's girlfriend. And her curse was she would not rest until she was reunited with her sister. Unfortunately, the nun's brother walked up into the ravine and saw the body. And the nun's sister saw this, thinking her brother did something to the little girl. Decided not to tell anybody to protect him. Of course, Mother Superior ain't gonna tell anybody because that would look bad on her and the school. So nobody said anything. Nobody said shit. But he had this bad habit of going back to the ravine and throwing in flowers. So let's cut back to Misha and Aya going, Misha, being afflicted by the curse, and Aya running into the brother. So Aya sees the brother. The brother, thinking that Aya is Maya, knocks her out, takes her to the ravine, and throws her into the water, hoping that, I'm putting her back. Hopefully that's fine. And unfortunately, Misha, on her way to the ravine in her trance, gets stopped by the nun and then knocked out. And she is taken to another location, and she's about to drown her. Turns out, this is another big plot twist, this nun was the one killing the girls. They never made it to the ravine. This is why the curse kept coming and taking the girls, because nobody came to the ravine and found the bodies. The nun was killing them before they got to the ravine, and then dumped their bodies into another ravine or another like creek area, and eventually they washed up somewhere. And like, that just blew my mind. I was like, they weren't killed by the spirits, but I thought that was an interesting circle around the fact that this curse got started because of love being lost. You know, a love being not fulfilled. You know, we were supposed to die together, and you left my ass. And then her whole curse is, I just want to be reunited with my sister. So it's all about being reunited, being together forever. And the elements I found in this movie, of course, was the atmosphere. It wasn't as spooky because these are not abandoned buildings, except for the reservoir that they end up going to near the end of the movie, where the little body is left out. But, you know, none of these are abandoned buildings, but it feels nice, especially in the school. When we got to see the camera, that was just badass. Again, I wish the main character had more use for the camera, and that we actually had some ghost moments and shit, because unfortunately, the little boy who has the camera, Mary's son, he takes pictures, and of course we see his little photo album with the ghosts and everything, and he talks about how he took pictures of ghosts with the camera, but he doesn't do anything with it. It's not like we have like cool ghost fights or anything with the camera. But I see the elements from the games, especially with the twin sister sibling thing, the forgetting, the whole thing with, you know, cherish the loved ones, you know, loving the people that are in your life, like how you know, with the whole 6-6 thing that the siblings have in the first game, they brought kind of that with Mary's husband. He's got the sixth sense touch, so it's actually technically it was more like the fifth game with the fatal glances thing. So yeah, there's a lot of elements, a lot of nods, a lot of things they took from each of these games, and they tied it into this movie, and it's done well. It's a beautiful crafted story, and it's told so well. It's just not that scary, and that's the disappointing factor. That truly is, and that's one of the bigger reasons why, you know, it's not like the greatest horror nod to a greatest horror movie nod to a horror game franchise that I've seen. Granted, it's not the worst either. Don't get me wrong. There's been some shitty fucking adaptations to good horror games. Silent Hill 2. Oh, God. Yeah, something caught in my throat there. Got a piece of masaka caught in there or something. Oh, did I say Silent Hill 2 out loud? My bad, man. My fucking bad. Yeah, no, that was a bad adaptation. But this one was not too bad. This was not too bad. But, yeah. I thought, you know, going into this whole podcast, I thought originally I was just going to be talking about one game, going into in-depth details. But the more research I did, the more I did into this game and this franchise, the more I fell in love with this franchise. So I had to talk about it. And I know we gone about an hour over my usual podcast, but I just had to talk about all this shit because the Fatal Frame franchise is a juggernaut. It's a beloved juggernaut that needs more credit where it's due at, because I feel like this is the quintessentialness of horror, survival horror at its finest. You know, you don't have a gun, you don't have limited ammo, you don't have a little safe zone that you can run up to and go, oh my god, a safe room. You don't have anything like that. It's literally just you, these creepy ass ghosts, this creepy ass atmosphere, and a fucking camera. And you're just a fragile, frail little girl, or little woman, I should say. I don't know how old some of these characters are. I want to say roughly young teenagers, or like, let me phrase that, older teenagers, younger adults. I want to say the Ren being the third protagonist. I think she was the one of the oldest until the fourth and fifth game remake and all that shit. But yeah, overall, this game franchise is amazing. I have fallen more in love with this and now than I did when I was a kid and growing up. I really hope they do remake the first three games. I would really love to see their take and get my hands on it so I can play it and enjoy it for what it is. Hopefully they'll fix a lot of the The tank controls, I wouldn't mind the third person camera perspectives again, being set in different locations, but fix the tank controls. I never were a big fan of tank controls. I get tank controls, I was never a big fan of it. But yeah, overall, guys, check it out. Fatal Frame's got a bunch of medium. There's hopefully more to come in a couple of years. Hopefully, maybe we'll get a Fatal Frame 6 even. And, if we don't get the remakes, the 3s at least, maybe make it some kind of collection we can get. Or even a Fatal Frame 6, something. At least the remakes. I really just want the remakes. Maybe a Fatal Frame 6 is reaching too far, but at least the remakes of the other 3 so we can enjoy it for many more years to come. But I think I done rambled on long enough about Fatal Frame, so I'm going to go ahead and end this podcast here. I hope everybody who has watched, is watching, will watch. I hope you enjoy. I hope everybody has a fantastic and a wonderful night. And if you're watching this video here on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this at, on Spotify, Anchor, wherever, please give this video a like, subscribe, and hopefully a comment down below, because you never know what fuck shit's going to happen here. Trust me, I never know. I didn't realize going into this, like I said, that this was going to be a whole big shabacle thing, like the Dark Picture Anthology podcast I did a couple of months back. But there's just so much to this franchise. I couldn't just pick one game out, especially when I've only played 2 of the 3 games, and they're not even 2 of the greater games. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I said, 4, hands down, is my favorite. But if I can get my hands on 1 or 2 at least, I think those would be outstanding compared to the 4th one. But yeah, I'd say fantastic. If you don't know anything about Fatal Frame, go look it up. If you have played Fatal Frame, let me know what y'all think in the comments down below. But that is a story for another day. So until then, my friends, y'all take care.